Chapter 779. Feeling extremely vexed, Tim Drake lay weakly on the ground, feeling blood continuously flowing out from his chest. He had failed Bruce's trust. He was not worthy of wearing those clothes after all. His eyelids grew heavier and heavier. Filled with unwillingness, he finally closed his eyes slowly. Has he fainted? The two beauties who were watching from afar discussed in a low voice. Let's wait for another 30 seconds. The secretary, who was experienced in killing, calmly pulled Poison Ivy back. The two of them dawdled for a while until Tim was completely unconscious. Only then did they walk out. Aya, the bromance between these brothers is really something. The beating was too brutal, Poison Ivy said as she took out a syringe filled with plant vitality and injected it into Tim's body. The secretary, who understood the structure of the human body, also used the green lamp's energy to repair his damaged body. Let's go and save his life. Let his companions worry about the rest. Let's catch up to that ruthless guy. If Gotham had a dark Batman, it would be quite interesting. Poison Ivy and the secretary put on their light rings at the same time, turned on their invisibility function, and flew up to track Jason Todd. Half an hour later, Nightwing, who had sensed that Tim was missing and realized that something had happened, followed the trail of the motorcycle and came over. Seeing that Tim had been beaten to the point where he was barely breathing after a long time, Nightwing was shocked and hurriedly carried him back for treatment. Nowadays, the medical cabins on the market had been upgraded to a very high level, and the one in the Batcave was not for sale. The robotic arm began to perform the surgery and transfused large amounts of blood. It was busy for 2 hours before the patient was saved. As for his successor, Dick understood Jason well. He knew Jason's intentions, and presumably, Jason also understood his thoughts. There was only one Batman. It was either this or that. There was no other way. If he did not accept the challenge, Jason would continue to kill. He had to stand up and fight Jason to the death. After leaving the Batcave, he contacted Barbara and found out about a few places in the city where the gangs were fighting. After some analysis, he headed northwest. At the same time, the two women who had been following Jason Todd in the sky were also talking. It's hard to imagine that this guy was actually taught by Batman. He watched as Jason Todd went on a killing spree. With 2 guns in his hands, he leaped onto roofs and vaulted over walls. He killed one person with a single shot, turning the gangsters into a river of blood. Poison Ivy was in disbelief. The legend of Batman had been a hot topic among the citizens of Gotham for a long time. As an ex-citizen of Gotham, Poison Ivy had talked about it with her friends over tea before she mutated. The principle of not killing was Batman's biggest insistence. However, his disciples had not followed his teachings. Your marksmanship isn't bad. I can tell that you've trained hard. The secretary didn't care about how many gangsters had died. She just wanted to analyze Jason's marksmanship from a professional point of view. The two of them had nothing to do, so they watched the performances and chatted for a while. Without Luther's harassment, the secretary seemed to have opened a door for herself. In addition, Poison Ivy was also a quick-witted woman. As the two of them chatted, the topic of what kind of props they should use at night went astray. That guy is here. The secretary's mental fortitude was much higher than Poison Ivy's. Even though her face was red from chatting, she still maintained her vigilance. She was the first to notice Nightwing Dick approaching from afar. Jason didn't have as good eyesight as the two ladies in the sky. Thankfully, Dick was here to end everything and had no intention of launching a sneak attack. He could hear the sound of the motorcycle from half a mile away. An unknown sound came from his nose. Jason went all out and finally killed all 19 gangsters. He put away his gun and stood there, looking coldly at Dick Grayson, who was getting off his motorcycle. Why did you have to be so ruthless to Tim? That's a strange question. He barged into my house. Of course I had to fight back. You know that he didn't mean any harm. We are family, Dick said angrily. Jason snorted, his lips curling into a contemptuous arc. Jason, you're a murderer. It seems like you've lost your last bit of conscience. Don't try to reason with me. You're not him, Dick Grayson. You're weak and pitiful. The spread of evil in this city is all caused by your hypocritical morals. Let me teach you what you should do." With that said, he kicked Dick's face with great force. Dick was 2 years older, and his body was at its peak. He had rich combat experience, so he raised his arm to block the kick. He didn't use the short stick he was good at, but instead, he used Batman's fists and legs to fight with Jason. Jason didn't use a gun either. He wanted to earn his own honor and wear that uniform. If there was a chance, he wanted to tell that person that he could do better. "You're nothing without him thinking highly of you." Jason punched Dick in the right cheek, then kneed him in the abdomen. Dick's reaction speed was top-notch. When his abdomen was hit, he used the force to pull in his stomach and twist his waist, raising his leg high to kick Jason in the chin. Both of them held their wounds and looked at each other. "He's our father. There's no doubt about that. And you've shamed him." Dick faked a move to fool Jason, then tripped him, and finally hit him in the face with his strong forehead. Jason felt his vision go black, and his vision and hearing were affected. He was still calm. He took out a small bottle and sprayed it in Dick's direction. Dick coughed violently in the pale yellow smoke. "Cough cough, the Scarecrow's fear gas? You must have stolen it from the Batcave, right? You're getting more and more unscrupulous. Face your fear." Jason kicked Dick in the chest, then ran 2 steps forward and punched him in the chest. When he was about to attack a third time, his right fist was grabbed by Dick, who had lost consciousness. "Before I came here, I injected the Scarecrow with all the mutated viruses known to him. You didn't expect that, did you? No one he taught is stupid." Jason was caught off guard. He took 2 punches in a row and vomited blood. "It's over, Jason." Dick kicked Jason in the chest. The second-generation Robin, who was known for his ruthlessness, was now half kneeling on the ground with a red hood. He didn't stand up for a long time. Dick walked over slowly. He wanted to grab Jason's collar and give him the final blow to end the battle. Unfortunately, he grabbed nothing. "Yes, it's over, Dick. Rest in peace." Jason shot out a rope from his right hand and wrapped it around a tall building in the distance. He flew up, and when he was in the air, he pressed a switch with his left hand. Chapter 780. Boom. Boom. Dick felt a huge tremor under his feet. How could he not know that the other party had already chosen this battlefield and buried explosives in advance? The previous gang war must have been deliberately attracted by him to numb him. Dick had a new understanding of his successor's treachery. He was not a person who would wait for death. At the critical moment, he threw out a rope and wrapped it around a tree in the distance. He borrowed the force of the rope to escape the explosion trap in a flash. Then, the two of them engaged in a mid-air chase. They faced skyscrapers that were hundreds of meters tall and ran through the streets and alleys. They did not have the skills of Thea and Diana. They were 2 ordinary people. If one of them slipped up and fell from a height of 100 meters, there was no chance of survival. However, the 2 of them were brave people. They fearlessly engaged in a race of life and death in mid-air. In the end, Dick, who came from a family of flying circus artists, was more skillful. The 2 of them stopped at the top of a high-speed train. Dick was 1 step faster and knocked away Jason's claw gun. The 2 of them stood still. Under their feet was a speeding train. The tracks that carried the train made loud clanging sounds. The sound was a little dull in the empty tunnel. The battle between the 2 of them had reached its final moment. "Circus performer, you've got some skills," Jason said. Unfortunately, the noise was too loud and Dick did not hear him. Jason chuckled and turned around to run in the direction of the train. Dick hurriedly chased after him. Before he could take 2 steps, he saw Jason take off his cloak and throw it in the direction of the wind in the tunnel. Dick panicked when his vision was suddenly obstructed. However, he quickly calmed himself down. This was his opponent's plan. The noise in the tunnel was too loud. His sensitive ears could no longer detect his opponent's whereabouts. Coupled with the cloak blocking his vision and hearing, he was in an extremely dangerous situation. "Should we save him?" Poison Ivy, who was flying over from afar, asked. After all, he was not good at fighting. "No need," the secretary said firmly. The 2 women chose to stand by and watch. At the critical moment, they saw Dick suddenly explode with all his strength. He jumped up and kicked in the direction he estimated. He gave up on defense and gave up on his worries. Because they were on a train, if this kick missed, he might even lose his life. Fortunately, his judgment was accurate enough. As he expected, Jason chose to fight head-on. Just as he pounced, Dick kicked him with all his strength. No. Dick felt that he had kicked a human body. He took the opportunity to remove the cloak that was covering his eyes and saw that the train had rushed out of the tunnel and was traveling on the Gotham Canal. Jason Todd had lost his balance and tumbled into the river. "That guy won't die, right?" The two young ladies continued to whisper. "He won't die. Look carefully at his movements when he enters the water. I dare say that he has already predicted this." "I couldn't tell. Batman's successor has finally been chosen. Then, the chaos in Gotham should come to an end. Let's go take a look at the Raptor squad on the other side." The two girls did not alert anyone and flew to the other side of the city. Nightwing touched the transparent door of the medical cabin. Looking at Tim, who was sleeping inside, he muttered to himself. "You think that I refused to wear the cloak because I was afraid, or because I couldn't bear to do it? Actually, both are wrong. I refused to take over the role of a mentor. He asked me to do so. In the message he left me, Bruce hoped that Nightwing and Robin could protect this city. I did so. Unfortunately, he is not an omniscient saint. There are times when he makes mistakes." Bruce underestimated Batman's position in the hearts of the Gotham people. Nightwing sighed and took off his mask, revealing a pair of tired eyes due to years of running around. After leaving the Batcave, he had been trying to get rid of the influence of this place on him. He wanted to leave the Mentor's protection and go out on his own. Unfortunately, his efforts were in vain. He had to make a choice today. Would he continue to be Nightwing in Broodhaven, or would he be Batman in Gotham City? Looking at Tim Drake, who was relying on a ventilator to maintain his life, he knew that he had no choice. He resolutely took off the combat suit that represented Nightwing, revealing his strong muscles. Dick Grayson took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and reached out to take off the combat suit of the original owner of the Batcave. The idol of his early years, the shackles after that, and the recent pain were all thrown to the back of his mind. Wearing this suit, he was no longer Nightwing. Instead, he had become a symbol that would strike fear into the hearts of the criminals in Gotham. "Bruce, no matter where you are, please protect me." After saying that, he put on the cloak with devotion. From today onwards, he was Batman. Tim Drake woke up a day later. With the poison vine lady's plant essence and the various treatments in the medical cabin, he recovered very quickly. After adapting slightly, he was able to walk. The blow this time was a little too big for him. After knowing that Nightwing had inherited Batman's mantle, he could not describe how he felt. He looked at the ceiling of Wayne's old house. Did he still need to stay here? Nightwing had already found his own path. Where was his own path? Walking out of the door, he saw a graceful figure walking slowly towards him from afar. "Miss Thea, is there anything I can help you with?" "Mr. Drake, Alfred said that you're injured and not in a good condition. He asked me to counsel you." Tim Drake tried his best to stand up straight. He had countless things he wanted to say, but he did not know where to start. However, his mind was indeed agile, and he quickly thought of a question. "Is Bruce really hopeless? Is there no hope at all?" Thea was silent for a while. "I hope the final answer is yes. I've known Bruce longer than you. Although we have different views, he's a person worthy of respect. I'll try my best to save him. However, when it comes to choosing, I can only choose this world and give up on him." Hearing that there seemed to be a glimmer of hope, Tim Drake hurriedly asked what he should do. If he could not find his own path, it would be a good idea to ask this mentor. Thea interrupted him and pointed to the old house behind her. "Let's go in and talk." Nightwing, "Oh, no, Batman now. Actually, they don't miss Bruce any less than you do. You're all right, but the starting point is different." She seemed to be calm, but in fact, she was quite tired now. Her doppelgangers were traveling in time one after another, and the burden was on her main body. She only needed to explain to these Mr. Robins once. After that, she should quickly go home and sleep. As the new Batman, Dick had been busy all night. When he saw her visit, he hurriedly came out. Damien was also woken up by the young lady. Not long after, the old butler walked into the hall and gathered to wait for her explanation. Chapter 781. Thea looked around and saw that everyone's gaze was fixed on her. Before we talk about Bruce, let's talk about Gotham. The chaos in the entire country is not as much as the chaos in Gotham. Recently, Gotham's crime rate has been high. In just a month, the number of citizens dying from unnatural causes has exceeded 200. Gotham needs to restore order immediately. If you can't do it, then the Justice League will have to intervene. The National Guard has gathered 1,500 people and is heading to Gotham. I can delay it for 3 days at most. After 3 days, there can't be such large-scale gunfights on the streets of Gotham. Milady slammed the table fiercely. Did she still want to talk about the spirit of the whole country? Gotham is dragging my wealth and divine power down. After explaining the current situation, Thea saw that everyone nodded in agreement, so she let it go. The number of criminals on the streets of Gotham was less than 10% of what it used to be. The reason why the Penguins and Two-Faced Men could survive until today and not be dragged to other planets to dig coal was because of Batman's interference. Throwing a living person to another planet was not something that could be done too openly. Death Knell had tried to play the game a few times, but they were all discovered by Batman at the time. That was why Gotham was in chaos today. Otherwise, if tens of thousands of people were dragged away, the 5 mafia families would not be able to do anything. Batman is a member of the Justice League. You have to attend the next meeting. Thea pointed at Dick and said. Dick nodded. This was something that he should do. Inheriting Batman's position would definitely bring about countless troubles. He was already mentally prepared. Thea thought for a while. The maintenance costs of the Watchtower space base were previously shared by me and Bruce. Now, hearing the question of money, Dick's face turned pale. He waved his hands. I'm poor. I don't have any money. Thea was very unhappy. This new Batman did not even have the superpower of being rich. What was the use of having him? She then turned to look at Damien. His biological son should be rich, right? Damien was just a brat and had no concept of money. He only knew that he could use his father's credit card and didn't ask about anything else. The brat gave her an ignorant look. Miss Thea, let's talk in private. The old butler hurriedly pulled her to the side. They talked about inheritance laws, inheritance taxes, Gotham's prices, and the impact of alien technology on mankind. Legally speaking, Master Bruce is still alive. The old butler's face was full of worry, expressing his helplessness. Thea slapped her forehead. She had forgotten about it. The old butler was right. She couldn't let ordinary people associate Bruce Wayne with Batman. 2 days ago, she had helped forge Comrade Bruce's medical record. The old butler tried to act pitiful again, as if they were going to beg for food next month. In short, they had no money. If you have the money, help me pay for it. Sia looked at this veteran actor and was speechless for a while. Your ability to cry poverty has already surpassed mine. You win. Fortunately, she didn't lack money now. Even if it was a huge hole, it wouldn't be a problem for her to deal with it alone for half a year or a year. All right, you pass. Let's put the matter of the Watchtower aside for now. Let's talk about Bruce. Bruce is in big trouble now. You all know that, right? The few of them nodded in unison. His memories are blocked and he's trapped in the turbulence of time. It can be said that he's in a very dangerous situation. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. Your father's mentor has now become an extremely powerful weapon. Once he returns to our current point in time with his own strength, a huge paradox will appear in the timeline. The entire universe will be pierced through. I don't know if you understand what I mean. The few young people who were valued by Batman were all people with outstanding intelligence. They could clearly hear Thea's unspoken words. Dick and Damien were already mentally prepared. They remained silent. The old butler couldn't hold it in. His eyes reddened as he hurriedly covered his mouth. Really, is there really no way at all? Tim still didn't give up and asked. I wish I could say there is, But there really isn't at the moment. Bruce and I are good friends. Although we have many different opinions, he's a great person. The world still needs his strength. I don't want to go to the end. To prove her point, she continued, my archaeological team found a fossil that has been preserved for about 6,000 years. It has the familiar bat mark on it. My clone is looking for clues on the timeline. Perhaps you've already sensed it between the lines of history. Thea looked at Tim. Even if Bruce has lost his memories, his caution is still in effect. However, he's like a stone thrown into a calm lake. No matter how light or small it is, the entire timeline will change because of it. These changes may be big or small, but the change here is definitely the biggest. After saying that, she circled her finger in a circle, indicating the changes here in Wayne's old mansion. What changes in our house? Dick and Damien were a little confused. They really couldn't see any difference. The timeline will start to cover the elderly. Your memories must be slightly different. Thea spread her hands. Batman moved through the timeline at a completely different speed. He had traveled through every minute and second here countless times. How could there be no changes at all? The young people didn't believe her. After a few casual words with the old butler, they realized the problem. The old butler's words didn't match. They felt that the old butler's words were similar, but they also felt that they weren't. The old butler looked a little confused. He prepared to speak with the facts and led them to the Wayne family's showroom. Thea didn't have anything else to do, so she followed him in. Wayne Manor occupied a large area. From a cultural point of view, it couldn't compare to the world-famous Chatsworth Manor. However, it was much larger, with a total area of nearly 2,100 acres. Excluding the few reclusive families, Wayne Manor was one of the most luxurious mansions in the United States. It was 2 times larger than Wayne's old mansion. There were too few people that Batman could trust. They didn't have any helpers, so the daily cleaning was done by the old butler. However, the old butler was so old that it was too inhumane for him to clean the huge manor alone. They usually had a fixed area of activity. The father, son, and disciple usually gathered on the west side of the manor. For a long time, Bruce Wayne didn't like the wealth that the family had accumulated through various means. He threw away the portraits of his ancestors far away. The showroom they were going to this time was on the east side. Walking through the long corridor, there wasn't much debris in the room, just dust everywhere. Alfred, who had undergone the strictest British butler etiquette training, was a little embarrassed. He would gossip from time to divert their attention so that he wouldn't be laughed at by Thea, a decent person. Chapter 782. At the end of the corridor, there were many statues, some guns, and swords hung neatly on the wall for people to see. According to the old butler, these were the famous spoils of war of the Wayne family's ancestors. Thea aside, even Dick and the others had never been to this area before. Please come in. The old butler took out a key and opened a thick door. The few of them filed in. He turned on the lights and removed the curtains on the portraits. Even the old butler noticed that something was wrong, let alone the few youths who were known for their sharp eyes. This, and this. They're too similar. Damien pointed at the portraits and said in disbelief. It was normal for him to find it strange because the ancestors of the Wayne family in the portraits all had generous faces, wide chins, and stern gazes. Excluding the factors of the painter, they looked 70 to 80% similar to Bruce. This result made him shudder. From a genetic perspective, it was possible for father and son to look similar, but it was too exaggerated for them to still look similar after 4 or 5 generations. It was not a monogamous reproduction. Once the female's genes were added, there would be obvious differences in appearance after 3 generations. And the ancestors in these portraits seemed to be carved out of the same mold. What did this mean? The youths looked at the portraits and felt a chill run down their backs. Thea was also gritting her teeth. The cause and effect that should have remained unchanged was completely messed up under the influence of the Omega effect. In the chaos of time, Bruce lost his memory. He was naturally close to his bloodline, and because of his outstanding leadership skills, he turned the tides in countless family upheavals and became the head of the Wayne family for several generations. He became his own ancestor and was written into the history books. This was his current problem. This person is holding a book with a bat mark on it. Tim pointed at a portrait that looked like a saint and said in surprise, "This person's clothes also have a bat mark. This person also has one." More and more evidence showed that even though Batman lost his memory, he still left behind many clues. It was not only for the team to find him, but also to save himself. Unfortunately, he did not know that his actions were destroying the entire timeline. "Why is there an empty portrait here?" Damien asked, pointing at a blank spot. "That's Thomas Wayne. The man who shares the same name as Master Thomas lived in the 1860s. He's a notorious cult leader. He's already been expelled from the Wayne family," the old butler recalled. "How is that possible?" "The head of the Wayne family in the 1860s was Joseph Wayne. I remember it very clearly," Tim Drake asked curiously. "Joseph?" The old butler thought for a moment. "Young Master Drake, you must have remembered wrongly. In the 18th century, there were only 3 people named Joseph in the Wayne family, and none of them were the patriarch." The old butler firmly believed that he did not remember wrongly. Tim was very sure at first, but after that, he also felt dizzy. Damien coughed twice like a little adult, indicating for them to focus on the disappearing portrait again. The old butler was very concerned about this legitimate heir of the Wayne family and no longer bothered with Tim about Joseph's existence. "The family has very little information about this Mr. Thomas. They only mentioned that he seemed to want to summon a demon named Bashmos in the modern world." The old butler was not sure if these memories were originally there, or if it was like what Thea said, the timeline had changed and they had suddenly appeared in his mind. "Barbatos?" Thea asked with an indifferent expression. "The Wayne family and the dark multiverse were too deeply entangled. My father is Thomas. This name is too good." She could not help but mock inwardly. The old butler slapped his forehead. "Yes, it's Barbatos. I heard that he's a demon from an ancient tribe. A bat demon." At the mention of bats, he shuddered. Batman and the bat demon. Was all of this destined in the 18th century? Bruce returned to the past and left behind countless bat markings, pushing the entire Wayne family to worship bats. "Miss Thea, is that what you mean?" Dick's mind was the calmest, and he came up with a shocking answer. "It's not just that, Dick. If I'm not wrong, the cave full of bats that Bruce fell into when he was young was a sacrificial site set up by this fellow who tried to summon demons more than 100 years ago." Thea did not mention one more thing. Her memories mentioned that there were traces of demons in Gotham. When she arrived at Gotham at the beginning of the year, she even asked Barbara and Catwoman about it. The 2 of them denied it and said that they had never heard of it. Now that she was a new god, even if the timeline exploded, it would not affect her. She felt that if she asked about the demons now, they would have an impression of it in their memories. There was no need to add to their psychological burden. Barbatos was still very far away from this universe. She said softly, "Eastern cultivators pay attention to cause and effect. From the analysis of this matter, Bruce is his own cause and effect. His fate was determined the moment time began to flow. You know the seriousness of this matter, right? This matter should be a wake-up call for you. Don't casually study things that you don't understand." "Okay, I'm leaving. The world is very peaceful now. Gotham cannot continue to be chaotic. You should hurry up and return everything to normal in these 3 days," Thea said as she opened a portal to go back. "Big sister," Damien called out to her. The naughty child hesitated. "Can I go and find him?" Thea was not bad to this eldest disciple. She rubbed his hair. "If you enter the river of time, the Wayne family will be even more chaotic. Trust me, I will think of a way." After saying that, she took a step and returned home. Her doppelganger was still searching in the river of time. The burden on her mental strength was very heavy. Her main body could not do much. After taking a shower, she fell asleep. The Bat team's actions were quite fast. Dick Grayson put on the Batman suit and reappeared on the streets of Gotham. Damien also put on the Robin suit and became the 5th-generation Robin. Batman's deterrence was not to be underestimated. In just 2 days, The criminals all quieted down and went home to be good citizens. A week after Gotham was restored to order, a tombstone was placed in the Wayne family cemetery. It was a small and inconspicuous tombstone beside Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne. There was no name, no date of birth or death, no burial. It was an ordinary stone that silently recorded the past of this greatest human hero. In order to keep it a secret, a few relatives and friends went to pay their condolences at different times. Thea did not go. After all, she still had to find the person in the river of time and even kill this person as a last resort. It would be too ironic for her to go, so she let Diana represent her. Tim Drake couldn't accept sitting around doing nothing. After he recovered from his injuries, he called himself Red Robin and left Gotham alone. In the American continent 6,000 years away from the main body, Thea, doppelganger, was running with the Golden Vanguard, elderly version. There was a group of barbarians with wild beast fur chasing after them. Woo woo woo. The barbarians shouted with unknown meaning. At least, Thea did not understand the content. She saw the leader of the barbarians, who was 2 meters tall, throw a sharp spear at them. Hey, have you been here before? Where is the cave you were hiding in? She still had her high attributes. Running a few steps was not tiring for her. Chapter 783. It had been many years since she was chased by a group of people. Her divine power was left in her main body, and her doppelganger had a large amount of magic power. She could destroy a few primitive natives with a wave of her hand. Unfortunately, this was the past, and she didn't know which of these natives' hundreds of generations of grandchildren would be a big shot, so she could only choose to run. She originally wanted to use an invisibility spell to fool them, but she didn't expect the tribe leader who threw the spear to be so sensitive that he saw through her and chased her for half an hour. It should be here. The Golden Vanguard controlled the watch on his wrist and said with uncertainty. Thea sighed. There's a ghost cave in this flat land. You and your younger version are as unreliable as your son. She didn't care about shocking the world anymore, grabbed the Golden Vanguard and flew up. Under the worship of a group of barbarians, they flew to the top of a nearby mountain. The Golden Vanguard controlled the watch and looked at her speechlessly. The time deviation increased by another 0.0012%. Thea waved her hand indifferently. The ancient people would be weird if they saw something, but they wouldn't die. Their destruction of the timeline was far worse than Batman's. You know my son? That's right, of course I've seen the famous Time Master, Rip Hunt. She looked around. This Batman was quite persistent. Every time he crossed over to the American continent, he would wander around the palm-sized future Gotham. His obsession was really deep. Hey, this is the 15th time point we've searched. Can the reinforcement of the timeline really work? Thea asked with uncertainty. Of course, you're the new god. Only the timeline that you walk through will be frozen. Even if we can't find Batman, we can still minimize the damage he does to the universe. The frozen time is very stable and won't change. We need to continue moving forward. The Golden Vanguard said as he took out the spherical time machine. Thea sat in it as well. With a boom, it broke through time and entered the river of time. Frozen time? That means there's an irregular time? How do you know all this? Thea couldn't see through the Golden Vanguard. In the past, there was only one universe in this world, and its timeline was fixed. After that, with the rebirth of the multiverse, or rather the rebirth of the 52 coexisting universes, some rippling wormholes were created, and many transmigrators entered the timeline through the wormholes, the Golden Vanguard said unhurriedly. Thea was shocked. The fact that the other party could accurately say the number 52 surprised her. The multiverse was not a neatly arranged display for people to see. They were intertwined and connected to each other. For example, the optical axis connected Earth 1 and Earth 13, the mic axis connected Earth 2 and Earth 3, the cemetery included Earth 3, Earth 13, 15, 19, 37, and so on, and the other world included Earth 4, 35, 39, 41, and so on. The mother box could open a passage. As for how many parallel universes there were, Thea felt that Uncle D.A. could give a specific number, but the Great Plains Wolf and the others might not know. The Golden Vanguard was just an ordinary person. He was neither 51 nor 53. How could he know about this? Who said that to you? Forgive me for being blunt, but I don't think you have such a strong vision. Thea was very serious. The fact that the Golden Vanguard could say this meant that there was a big shot behind him. Who was it? Was it from heaven or hell? Or was it a sleeper? The Golden Vanguard had a strange expression on his face. He stuttered for a long time before squeezing out a sentence. This part of my memory has been sealed. I only know that I am not your enemy. The control system suddenly chimed. The Golden Vanguard was overjoyed. I found the Omega's reaction. This time, we will definitely catch up. Thea was expressionless. This man had said the same thing during the previous 15 tracking attempts. Unfortunately, he had failed every time. When he was lucky, Batman had just teleported away. When he was unlucky, it was already more than 10 years after he had transmigrated. In short, the time machine that the Golden Vanguard controlled was just like him, unreliable. This should be the beginning of the 19th century, the era when cowboys were just starting to reclaim the land. Here, take it. The Golden Vanguard said as he took out a flintlock from under the seat. Remember, we can't use weapons that exceed the limits of this era. Thea played with the revolver in her hand. She had a hunch that she wouldn't need it. Sure enough, after leaving the River of Time, she opened the door of the cockpit and walked out, only to hear the Golden Vanguard exclaim, "Oh my God, where is this?" The two of them were on an island floating in the void, like a small boat on the sea. Up and down, left and right, there were slow and uniform dark blue waves, which were tributaries of the River of Time. The land on the island had been completely desertified. It was abnormally dry in their hands. There were no signs of life on the island, only emptiness and silence. Where is this? Batman has been here. The Golden Vanguard was completely confused. He continued to fiddle with his wristwatch as if he was grasping at straws. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything for a long time. Stop fiddling. If I'm not mistaken, Batman has been here before, but someone teleported him away. It wasn't the Omega effect, but a man-made teleportation, she said with certainty. After saying that, she pointed to the northeast corner. There's an extremely strong magic reaction in that direction. Let's go and take a look. With that, she flew up, and without waiting for the Golden Vanguard, she flew toward the magic reaction area. After flying for less than a minute, she stopped. The blood-red stairs extended to the top of the mountain, and a black castle was in the middle of the mountains. The Golden Vanguard also flew over at this time. He pointed to the castle. What is this place? Do you want to go in? I only know that this is the end of time. Someone interfered with Batman's random teleportation. Whether he had good or bad intentions, he did us a big favor. As soon as her voice fell, the castle gate creaked open on both sides. The open gate and the dark interior looked like a giant beast that could swallow the world from a distance. Deliberately mystifying, Thea said with a little contempt. This doesn't look like a good place. This was the Golden Vanguard, who hadn't figured out the situation yet. Thea wasn't so confused. From the moment she set foot on the island, the other party had noticed her. Of course, she also noticed the other party. There was a very strong archmage in the castle. She didn't care at all about the gloomy atmosphere created by the castle. She was the master of playing with souls every day. The atmosphere in front of her wasn't even worthy of carrying her shoes. She entered the gate, passed through the atrium, and came to a door that occupied a rather large area. She directly pushed the wooden door open and walked in with her head held high. A humanoid creature wearing a tattered black beggar's robe and a hood covered his face. His limbs were so thin that they were only skin and bones. He stood upright, as if waiting for her. Chapter 784. The black-robed sorcerer had a vast amount of magic power in his body. Unfortunately, his tattered black robe made him lose a lot of points. If he were to walk on the road in this attire, he would be directly sucked in. The only highlight was the colorful staff in his withered left hand. The two peak sorcerers were sizing each other up. They judged each other's spells through their actions and words, calculated each other's strength, and simulated the order of casting spells in battle in their minds. As for peace, it was impossible from the start. The other party did not relax his spiritual power. He had his eyes on Thea's incomparably pure magic power. Thea also felt the inspiration of the thread of fate. There seemed to be some benefits to be had here. "Who are you? Do you recognize me?" The black-robed man spoke first. His voice was so unpleasant that it sounded like scratching glass. His language was not English. Instead, it sounded like another language that Thea was not too familiar with, the Atlantean language. "Who are you? Don't you recognize me?" Thea asked back. After a simple exchange of blows, the result was very satisfactory. Neither of them recognized the other. There was no psychological burden in fighting like this. The soul fire needed the support of the soul god's position. At this moment, her clone could not use it. However, she could still use the magic fire. She raised her hand and used her strongest attack, silver fire. The silver-white flame extracted from pure magic power, dragging a long tail of flame, crashed into the black-robed man like a meteor. The black sorcerer was a little out of Thea's expectations. This guy was as black as coal, but he was actually a water sorcerer. He raised his staff high, and seawater flowed out from the surroundings. The castle became a swamp. A purple tentacle stretched out from the water, stretched slightly, and smashed down on the silver fire. The silver fire broke the tentacle as expected. However, it had already consumed more than half of its energy. It was destroyed by the other two tentacles that came out from the seawater. Very powerful. "Are you an Atlantean? I didn't know that they had such a powerful sorcerer still alive," Thea said calmly. She still had the upper hand in the test. Moreover, the Golden Vanguard could help a little, right? Probably, Atlantis. What's there to brag about? "I'm Darkness Magistra. Young mage, have you heard of my name?" The black-robed man could tell that Thea was not very old at a glance, which made him envious to death. She actually had such a huge amount of magic power at such a young age. "Something in the darkness?" This naming method is so ancient. Thea pursed her lips. Thousands of thoughts collided in her mind. She searched for this name in her memory, and she actually found it. This king of darkness had a common acquaintance with her, the first king of Atlantis, the chosen of Poseidon, the one known as the king of death. If he remembered correctly, the mage in front of him was the father of that old zombie, the god of death. TSK, his son was a zombie, and his father was a mage. What a family. Thea pretended to be nonchalant. "I've heard of it. Back then, you might have been able to dominate the world. But now, you're too old." She began to quickly mobilize her magic power and shot out endless silver flames. Silver light flickered, and countless magical flames bombarded the dark magi. Seawater. The seawater evaporated. Houses. The houses were overturned, and before the bricks and pillars fell to the ground, they were burned to ashes by the flames. Mph, finally out. More than half of the seawater evaporated, and the monster hidden under the water revealed its face. This thing looked like a huge octopus, and its tentacles were thousands of meters long. The whole house, and even the floating island in the void, was made of rocks piled up by its huge body. The monster did not have a head or a face, but at the part where all the tentacles were connected to the torso, there was a big mouth with a diameter of 10 meters. The sharp teeth were divided into 3 layers, densely covering the whole mouth. Its breath was distant and mellow, like a giant beast that had existed since ancient times. Its energy was too strong. Not to mention Thea's clone, even if the original body came, it would not be able to defeat this thing. Fortunately, its energy had been amplified countless times in the river of time, but at the same time, the flow of time had also washed away its intelligence, which was not very high to begin with. Its body was too strong, but its soul was too weak. This sea monster could be said to be half crippled. Even the old ancestor of Atlantis behind it could not command it. A sea monster. Or a sea monster with the time attribute. Thea clicked her tongue in amazement. She did not know if it was an ability that she originally had, or an ability that she developed after soaking in the river of time. Gold. Vanguard. The young lady was just about to call for Gold Vanguard to help, but she saw this handsome guy, who seemed to have a big boss behind him, being dragged out by the giant octopus like a dead dog. Thea wanted to kick him to death. "You're just here to cause trouble, aren't you? Why do I have to spend effort to save you?" The dark wizard's face could not be seen clearly, but the silent mockery could be felt by anyone. His magic was strong, the sea monster was too strong, and he had a hostage in his hand. With these three factors, this young wizard had no hope at all. Thea did not care about the dark wizard's thoughts. She took out the fortune bow and casually shot an arrow at the dark wizard. He did not know why she did not use magic, but instead used archery to decide the winner, so the dark wizard chose to watch carefully. He raised his hand and a blue ripple appeared, blocking the arrow. Unfortunately, he underestimated the power of the divine bow and arrow. The arrow pierced through the shield and headed straight for him. He could only use the divine staff in his hand to block the arrow. Thea felt that it was a pity. She had already seen that the dark wizard's key to controlling the sea monster was the staff. Her trade deity position was not above her doppelganger, and she only relied on the divine power in the bow. The probability of this forced trade was a little low. However, she was not in a hurry. As long as there was a chance, it was fine. If one arrow was not enough, she would shoot 10 arrows. If 10 arrows were not enough, she would shoot 100 arrows. What happened next completely confused the dark wizard. It was supposed to be a battle between wizards. How did it become a battle between an archer and a wizard with a pet? Thea was very agile, and she had the style of an elven archer. She was calm as the octopus monster's tentacles hit her, and she used all kinds of angles to shoot at the dark wizard. The sea monster was very powerful, but its brain was already muddled. Even the dark wizard, the original owner, could not control it. The most he could do was to issue a general order, such as attacking a certain area. Only then could he mobilize some of the sea monster's power. The sea monsters were so stupid that they only knew how to attack in a dull manner. They did not care about the effect or the terrain. The castle, which was originally in good shape, was torn to pieces. Thea was very agile. In just 10 seconds, she had already shot hundreds of arrows at the enemy. The divine arrows were so powerful that ordinary magic shields could not block them. The dark wizard could only hide behind the sea monster as if he was playing hide-and-seek. It was supposed to be a high-level magic battle, but it felt like a third-rate shooting movie. The giant sea monster was a natural cover. One person jumped out from the gap and shot 2 arrows. The other person hid behind the cover and waited for the right time to come out and cast 2 spells. Although they were fighting back and forth, Thea still had the upper hand. Her reaction speed and all her attributes were higher than the dark wizard's. Moreover, her arrows were endless, and the dark wizard's magic power was limited. The dark wizard secretly analyzed the situation and also analyzed this disadvantage. In his opinion, Thea wanted to use this method to exhaust his magic power. At first, the dark wizard would attack from time to time, but he did not fight back. He hid behind and ordered the sea monster to attack fiercely. Chapter 785. He was trying to save his mana, and the opponent was not able to defeat him for a long time. She would definitely change her mentality. As long as she made a mistake and got hit by the sea monster, the situation would be completely reversed. The wizard thought that he had seen through the opponent's plan. He could not follow her rhythm. In addition to strength, he also needed to compete with wisdom and mentality. He had lived for so many years, so his mentality was definitely better than Thea's. He was very calm. The magic shield was useless against the divine arrows. In order to save his mana, he did not use the shield to defend himself. He could not block it anyway. Whenever an arrow was about to hit his head, he would hide behind the sea monster. If he could not dodge, he would block it with his divine staff. He wanted to see who could outlast the other. Thea saw that the opponent was very cooperative. She was stunned for a moment, but she did not think too much about it. She continued to shoot arrows like a meteor chasing after the moon. The wizard thought that he had succeeded. He waved his staff like a windmill, blocking left and right. His gloomy eyes were full of mockery. Thea ignored him and continued to attack according to her own rhythm. The wizard was also very calm. The two of them attacked and defended. It was very boring. What was the opponent planning? After blocking 5 or 6 arrows in a row, Thea's attack was like quicksilver flowing down the ground. The wizard muttered in his heart. He had never seen such an unpredictable opponent in his life. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Should he attack twice at the right time? The wizard thought to himself. Soon, he gave up the idea. No matter what the opponent was planning to do, he would be in an invincible position. He made up his mind to fight a protracted battle and blocked another arrow. Hey! Suddenly, his hand became lighter. Where was the staff? The wizard was shocked. The staff that was originally more than a meter long was in the opponent's hand, and he was holding a gem in his hand. What was this? He used his power of the will to examine the gem carefully. With his attainment as a great wizard, the principle of gem magic was as simple as looking at the lines on the palm. He understood everything at a glance. But how did this thing get into his hand? How did the staff get into the opponent's hand? He was very puzzled. Sia chuckled. Exchanging a gem with a 30-year lifespan for a tattered magic staff, the other party was actually making a profit. To this dying mage, life was priceless. He scanned the magic staff with his power of the will. It had a very crude design, and its value could not even be compared to the god of death's magic staff. Its only function was to control this huge sea monster. In order to prevent himself from falling into the flow of time, the wizard had transferred his power of the will to control the sea monster into the magic staff. However, because the sea beasts had been washed away by the river of time, this staff, which wasn't made of the best materials, had been badly damaged. No wonder the control effect is so poor. Thea curled her lips. She did not immediately erase the wizard's power of the will imprint. Otherwise, the sea monster would lose control, and even Thea would be in trouble. Fortunately, she had gotten her hands on it in advance. Otherwise, it would be a big joke if the other party died together with her at the critical moment. I'll keep it safe for you. Thea kept the staff in her space ring as the other party roared in anger. I'm going to kill you. The wizard casually threw away the gemstone and no longer cared about the consumption of magic power. Like a shrew, he opened his arms, and the surging sea water surged as he charged towards Sia. You're talking as if I'm afraid of you. Thea ordered the sea monster to retreat. Her 5 fingers moved lightly, and one by one, lifelike giant silver-white firebirds were created. Then, the firebirds danced in the wind like a group of elves. They cheered, jumped, and were full of rich magic power as they rushed forward. The wizard's spell was indeed unique. Countless strong lights flashed in the sea water under his control. With just a sweep of the light, the firebird was reduced to the purest magic power. Then, with a big wave, the magic power was sucked back into the sea water. Very good. Thea nodded. The opponent's magic was both offensive and defensive. It also had the magical effect of absorbing the opponent's magic power. It could be said that the understanding of magic was at its peak. However, she was not afraid at all. Ordinary mags could not do anything, but she was a god. She could not use her divine power, but her vision and knowledge were still the same. Thea softly uttered an obscure syllable, and the wizard's sea began to flow back uncontrollably. The waves rolled and rolled back to its original owner. The wizard was shocked. He checked his magic mark and found that there was no problem with the casting steps. He knew that it was the enemy's doing. He made a prompt decision and cut off the part that was out of control. He controlled the rest of the sea to reform into a huge sea snake. The sea snake was more than 100 meters long. Its dark green head was aimed at Thea, and it was going to swallow her. Boring. Thea's clone did not bring the holy sword, but she did bring the father's short sword. She held the short sword tightly and aimed at the snake's head. A huge light screen as bright as the sun appeared. The light screen turned into a crescent-shaped slash in the air. Thea felt that if she shouted something like Crescent Moon Tensho, she would be very childish. The sea snake's head was directly cut off by the crescent-shaped slash. The wizard did not care. It was not difficult for a magic creation to grow a new head. Unfortunately, He cast 2 spells and nothing happened. He then looked at his sea snake. The cut was very smooth, and there was a faint silver flame burning in the dark green water. The wizard did not see the difference between the father's fire of justice and Thea's fire of magic. He was still trying to extinguish the fire with conventional methods, but no matter how much magic he poured on it, it was useless. The fire of justice was stimulated by magic, and it burned even more vigorously. Another divine artifact. The wizard was a little confused. Previously, there was a divine bow and arrow, and now there was a divine short sword. Were there so many divine artifacts in the outside world now? Thea did not care about what he thought. She killed the sea snake with 1 slash and aimed her left hand at the wizard. She wanted to end the battle with 1 strike. Several complicated incantations were spat out from her red lips, and her eyes shone like stars. This was a sign that her spirit had reached its peak. Wizards were not idiots, and they would not just watch her cast a spell. The remains of the sea serpent were decomposed into seawater. The dark green seawater was mixed with the wizard's magic power and became as dark as ink. The black water emitted a foul smell, and the air became green. A tsunami of poisonous fog rushed towards her. Thea did not block it. Every time the poisonous fog was close to her, she would teleport away. In just 10 seconds, she teleported 31 times. Under the wizard's anxious eyes, she was finally ready to cast the spell. With a soft crack, the several layers of magic shields that the adept had prepared were shattered into pieces. A faint thread connected the 2 of them, and the wizard only felt that his consciousness was a little scattered. Chapter 786. Necromancy. The sorcerer was worthy of his title as an archmage. There were differences between ancient magic and modern magic, but the essence of magic was unmistakable. He instantly knew that the foreign energy had invaded his body. He did not expect this young girl to be a master of the school of necromancy. He was the scrawny one with a black robe covering his face. "Are you kidding me? You're not playing by the rules." That was the last thought in his mind before he completely lost consciousness. Sucking Darkseed might take a lot of effort, but it's not hard to deal with you. Thea opened her hand and grabbed a translucent blue soul in her palm. She extracted the soul of the archmage named Dark Malgistra. The extraction process was a little difficult. Firstly, the difference in level between them was not big. Secondly, she could only use her mana to simulate the waves of the soul. After all, this was not a real battle. She did not have the ability to do it. Fortunately, the result was not too bad. The archmage, who could have fought her for a long time, was killed in an instant. The sorcerer's soul was violently extracted, and his consciousness was in a mess. Thea ignored him and threw him aside. She was not worried that the sorcerer would return to her body. As the goddess of souls, she only cared about killing and not burying. She did not think that an ancient Atlantean sorcerer would have the ability to do so. Thea suddenly realized that the sorcerer's soul was a little different from ordinary people. At first, it was a little cloudy because it had just been extracted. After the impurities dissipated into the air, the part that was closest to the soul was revealed. The sorcerer's soul was blue. He looked at Thea blankly, as if wondering why the 2 of them looked different. Did souls have attributes? Thea was stumped by this question. Previously, the siren had stolen many souls, but they were all colorless and transparent. This was the first time she had seen a colored one. It's worth researching. Thea found the best gemstone and stored the soul in it. She would give it to her main body for research later. After dealing with the trivial matters, she kicked the golden vanguard lying on the side like a salted fish. This thing kept saying that it was here to help. It was killed by a sea monster in an instant and had yet to wake up. What a pity. Wake up, it's daybreak. She kicked him again. In the end, there was no reaction at all. The young miss sighed. The sea beast's own power of time could be said to be terrifying. The golden vanguard was just an ordinary person, so it would probably faint for a while. Thea activated her supervision and looked at the wizard's body. This guy was just a poor guy. He was only wearing a tattered black cloth. Thea burned the body with a fireball. The castle had been torn apart by the aftermath of their battle. The current setting was a little better than the open field, but there was a limit to how much better it was. She looked around for a long time, but the floor was full of junk and worthless. Pauper. The young lady looked at him with disdain and finally took out the wizard's magic staff. The interior of the staff was full of cracks, to the point where it could not be mended. If he wanted to repair it, he would have to use his ability to alter reality. If Thea had this ability, why would she look for Batman? However, she was also very envious of the sea beast's enormous power of time. This guy had stayed in the long river of time for a long time. It had completed the most difficult step of integrating time and body with its strong vitality, which was homogenization. Unfortunately, it did not have divinity. It relied on its own will and intelligence to control the thoughts of countless intelligent beings in the long river of time. As a result, it became mentally retarded. What should she do? It was not her style to let the benefits slip away in front of her eyes. However, she really did not know where to start when it came to things like time. As for obtaining the deity of time, it was even more illusory. The sea beast's lifespan could be traced back to tens of thousands of years ago. It was already alive before the Atlanteans. Its lifespan was long enough for humans, Thea, and Diana. However, it was far inferior to the new gods. For example, the Heavenly Father and Uncle Da's lifespan was measured in hundreds of millions, but they had not seen any new gods obtain the deity of time. This kind of top-level deity of time could not be obtained through accumulation. It required an opportunity. This opportunity seemed to be in the sea beast's body now. However, Thea could only look at it anxiously and could not take it out. The essence of time was a double-edged sword. It gave the sea beast unparalleled power but also made it mentally retarded. Thea had enough foundation to carry the deity of time, but she could not get it. This made her very confused. What if I design a machine and slowly extract it from the deity of time? She touched her smooth jade-like chin and pondered. No, she quickly gave up on this idea. Not to mention whether she could do it or not, even if she could do it, it would be useless. Her original body could not enter, and if her doppelganger absorbed the deity of time, it could not leave either. It was even possible that after a long time, her doppelganger would become another new god. This was all possible. The goddess of wealth expressed that she would not do something that would cause her to suffer a double loss. She found a collapsed stone pillar and lay down, resting with her hands on her head as she thought. When she inadvertently saw the terrain of the entire island, a sense of familiarity emerged from her memory. I've been here before. There were some differences in the buildings, but the terrain was exactly the same. This was the place called the Vanishing Point that she and the Legends of Tomorrow had blown up back then, right? The end of time, the island floating in the river of time, everything seemed to be telling her that she had guessed correctly. The handling of the power of time in the sea beast's body, the all-knowing boss behind the Golden Vanguard, Rip Hunter, the Legends of Tomorrow, the Vanishing Point that was blown up, the floating island in front of her, the Eye of Arcane Core. A lot of things finally connected into a line. Hehe, so that's how it is. I understand now. After being washed by the flow of time, your memory should have recovered. Everything you know about parallel universes was told to you by me, right? I was also the one who sealed your memory, right? Thea turned to ask the Golden Vanguard who had just woken up. The other party laughed bitterly. Indeed. Thea murmured softly. So this organization of the Masters of Time was created to fix the time loophole that Batman created? Was it created in my future, or in the next few days? The Golden Vanguard nodded, indicating confirmation. The young mistress was a little silent. Back then, she was wondering who was the boss behind the creation of the Masters of Time, so it was herself. For her, she had blown up the Masters of Time's council in her own timeline, and then created this organization in the present. There was only one explanation for this: she had obtained the God of Time's position in the future. Like Batman and Extreme Speed, they could switch between cause and effect, but because they were still mortals, their influence wasn't that great. Gods couldn't, even the Heavenly Father couldn't create the cause after having the result, unless he could control time. Back then, I thought that the old men in the Masters of Time's council were all useless. You were the one who chose them, right? The young mistress continued asking. The Golden Vanguard laughed bitterly. It was because the younger version of me saved many people who should have died, but in my timeline, these people were already dead, so. Chapter 787. Thea found it a little funny. Oh, in order to prevent these people from affecting your timeline, you ignored them and brought them all to the Time Master Council. Back then, I felt that there was something wrong with the structure of this organization. There were hundreds of old bureaucrats, but only a dozen of them. So that's why. With all her doubts gone, Thea finally understood the cause and effect. The Golden Vanguard wasn't lying when he said that he could help her. Even though this logic was a mess, she still happily accepted this result. The time deity position. Just thinking about it made her excited. It was related to her current deity position, wealth, and soul. Even though nothing was set in stone yet, the young mistress was still motivated. The reason I created this organization is to fix the time loophole that Batman created, right? It felt weird to ask someone else about her own purpose. However, the young mistress relied on her thick skin to completely ignore the Golden Vanguard's doubtful gaze. Maybe. The Golden Vanguard's answer was hesitant. Who knew what she was thinking? After the organization is established, I probably won't stay here for long. Does that mean that the future leader will be you? About the 52 universes, I was the one who told you then, right? The Golden Vanguard was very certain about this question and nodded. I think I understand. Go back and gather more people. I need to modify this place. Thea waved her hand and sent the Golden Vanguard away. The aesthetic style of the Dark Sorcerers did not match the grand name of the Master of Time at all. Although 99% of these so-called Masters of Time were a bunch of weaklings who were saved by the young version of the Golden Vanguard and thrown here to retire by the old version of the Golden Vanguard, the young lady still planned to tidy up the island. After all, this was her territory. In the previous battle, she felt that the power of many elemental magic would be reduced at the end of time, while soul magic would be greatly strengthened. She was too lazy to waste time and directly used magic to simulate soul power to wash the entire island. The main colors were white and gray. It was exactly the same as the first time she stepped into the vanishing point. Back then, she even mocked the builder for having a problem with his aesthetic style. Now, the blame fell on her. How ironic. She moved quickly, but the Golden Vanguard wasn't slow either. In less than half an hour, he left more than 100 people in the square. On the grayish-white square, a group of people were brought here in a daze. Those who knew each other asked each other for information, while those who did not know each other were on guard. 90% of the people in the group were uncles and aunties, but there were a few youngsters who were constantly looking around. Youngsters were the quickest to adapt, and in this era of information explosion, their imaginations ran wild. A few of them were whispering to each other, and Thea almost burst out laughing when she heard them. They actually thought that this was the beginning of the infinite style. Thea was too lazy to meet these celebrities who had been saved by the younger version of the Golden Vanguard because she knew several of them. In order to avoid trouble, she directly used invisibility. Not long after, the Golden Vanguard finally completed the initial recruitment work. Because the younger Golden Vanguard would still save people in the future, this work would continue. Thea left all the organizing work to the Golden Vanguard. This superhero, who had brought his own food, was very energetic and experienced. He went to lecture a group of uncles and aunties. She herself was researching how to transform the sea beast into a time machine. Consider yourself unlucky. She took out the control staff, and a large amount of magic power connected to the sea beast through the spiritual imprint inside the staff. The sea beast's consciousness, which was already muddle-headed, was directly cleared. Its body was still there, and it was still breathing, but its consciousness was gone. It had become an empty shell with a large amount of energy, and the staff used to control it had turned into dust. After that, the work was to cut open its stomach and transform it. The body had completely solidified with the island, and there was no longer any distinction between them. The sea beast's blood and time energy had been assimilated, and it had been upgraded to a special liquid. This was a natural flow of time, and the minute changes in the timeline could be observed from it. The brain was taken out and placed inside a supercomputer. The supercomputer was snatched by Death Knell from a highly civilized planet. At least Thea did not understand how it worked. The supercomputer would read all the information inside the brain and feed it back to the display screen outside. The power source initially gave Thea a headache, but when she remembered the blue energy body from the planet Dinesh, she decided to use it to power it. Her doppelganger and main body had the same idea, and if she needed anything, she would let the Golden Vanguard return to reality and ask for it from the main body. After toying with it for half a month, this half-technological, half-magical product that she named the Eye of Arcane Core was finally produced. After running it for half an hour, a huge problem was discovered. Even the most advanced supercomputer in the universe was unable to deal with the various problems in the timeline. "It needs to be faster," said the clone Thea. To speed up the sea beast's brain's processing speed, she could only think of the seraphic speed power. Back then, she had absorbed a little from the speed of reverse lightning out of curiosity. After a few experiments, there was still a lot left. Thea's main body felt that this thing was not of much use, so she found a magic box containing the seraphic speed power from Hade's treasury, and asked the Golden Vanguard, who had changed his job to a courier, to pass it to her clone. "Where's the thing?" On the island named the Vanishing Point, the clone looked at the bitter Golden Vanguard and asked curiously. "It was snatched away by a fellow." "Ah?" Thea's clone could not think of anyone who would snatch this thing. "It's an extreme speed user. As for the details, he was too fast, so I didn't see clearly," said the Golden Vanguard dejectedly. "Extreme speed user? Which extreme speed user snatched this thing for fun?" Thea was dumbfounded. The seraphic speed power that she wrapped was not even enough for them to run for 10 seconds. What was the use of it? She opened her Arcane Core's I version 1.0 and began to observe. A large amount of data could not be processed, but she could see it with a special time flow. She saw the robber. It was an extreme speed user wearing a huge silver armor. The answer was obvious. It was Savitar, who was imprisoned in the seraphic speed power space in the future. The other party did not want the seraphic speed power, but the box containing it. As long as he replaced the seraphic speed power in the box with his own, then as long as he fooled the Lightning Squad a little, he would be released because of the same origin of the seraphic speed power. As for whether this Savitar was the main body or the one replaced by the remnant of time, Barry Allen, the young lady did not care. "About that, you have to make another trip. Our supercomputer needs the seraphic speed power. What if he snatches it again?" asked the Golden Vanguard while scratching his head. This question really stumped Thea. She did not think it would happen. Savitar only wanted to escape from the seraphic speed power space. Did he have nothing better to do than snatch a bunch of magic boxes for fun? Could it be that he wanted to rely on this to get rich? Chapter 788. But she had to be careful, not to mention that she had to maintain the timeline. The more stable the timeline was, the higher the chance of obtaining the God of Time position. If she allowed the speedsters to travel through the back garden, the timeline would be completely finished. A rotten timeline, even if she thought with her toes, she would know that she had no fate with the God of Time position. If she wanted to get something, she had to pay first. This was an irrefutable truth. The doppelganger and the main body communicated in the spiritual world. Thea instructed the Golden Vanguard to wait for a while. The main body would deal with this matter. This was to prevent Savitar from snatching the box, and also to deter the speedsters from traveling through time for fun. She wanted to set up a group of law enforcers in the River of Time. The rich bureaucrats saved by the Golden Vanguard couldn't do it, they could only do some repair work. Thea needed some law enforcers who didn't know fatigue and could run at high speed. They were the time undead from the original space-time. The main body was lying on the big bed in the White House. The feeling of having 1 foot in the timeline and 1 foot outside the timeline was extremely satisfying. If she wasn't a magic god, she wouldn't have been able to support this kind of mental energy consumption. The problem of Savitar could be temporarily put aside. In the future, Savitar would kill Ayers West. After that, the explosive Barry would create a group of his own time remnants to push him. In the end, Savitar would be thrown into the power of speed. The plan was completed very well. Barry never expected that one of the time remnants would have a bold idea. This remnant, who had the same memory and ability as Barry, went back to the past and turned himself into Savitar. It was similar to Batman, who was blown into time by the Omega Ray, but the result was reversed and became the cause. Sia even felt that this set of theories was something she had explained at the Righteous Alliance meeting. The remnant of time Barry naturally had this memory, and according to this theory, he had turned himself into Savitar. Then, one day in the future, he would kill heirs, and Barry would create the remnant of time, forming a cycle. This man didn't rob banks, set fires, or subvert governments. Other than killing Black Girl, he was almost harmless. If he didn't steal her things, Thea wouldn't have bothered with him. The time undead must use soul methods. Who else could create such a creature other than her, who occupied the god of soul and also had a foot in the realm of time? However, she was stumped as to how to create a banshee. She had no experience in creating a race. In addition, the reverse lightning's lightning power had been completely used up, so she had to find a new one. Barry had a good discussion with him. You run a few steps while I absorb some of the power of Godspeed. Logically speaking, it was a good choice. But considering that he and Savitar's memories were connected, this good choice became not so good. If it really didn't work, knock him out and extract it from his cells. Thea came up with a bad idea and contacted Caitlin to ask about the current situation of the Lightning Squad. So it's like this. Has Savitar officially revealed himself? His actions are really fast. After listening to Caitlin's story, Thea could not help but sigh. That person was really impatient. He had already thrown out the magic box as bait, and was luring the Flash step by step onto the path he had set. Thea knew the details and chose not to show herself. She chose to observe in secret. Savitar sent his subordinates to parade around with the magic box and wantonly create superpowered people. Among them, there was a lucky or unlucky person. Air's Black Devil brother, Wally West. This guy did not know that he would be Savitar's spare tire and enter the space of Godspeed as a scapegoat. Now that he had obtained the power of Godspeed, he was so happy that his eyes were not his eyes and his nose was not his nose. However, the Lightning Squad around him had a gloomy look. His joy had to be buried in the bottom of his heart. He pretended to be worried and discussed with a few people, but he could not suppress the smile on his face. Thea, who was hiding not far away, looked at him with disdain. After that, the process went smoothly. Wally was like an idiot. He went to challenge Savitar, but was easily bypassed by the other side and was thrown into the space of Godspeed as a scapegoat. Savitar, or Barry Allen's remnant of time, was free. Snatching the magic box at the end of time was the first step. Walking out of the space of Godspeed was the second step. Killing heirs in this time and space was the third step. After these 3 steps were completed, the cycle was formed. He was no longer a remnant of time, but the real Savitar. Thea looked on coldly as Wally was sucked into the space of Godspeed. Whether he would become a superhero or not, the current predicament was a lesson. She was too lazy to save a smug Black Devil. Not only did she not save him, she also hid in the surroundings and absorbed a lot of the overflowing Godspeed. Wally's Godspeed was exactly the same as Savitar's. They were both absorbed by Thea and stored in a new box. She was going to give it to the Golden Vanguard when she returned. The problem of Godspeed was solved. The matter of the time undead was still unclear. She had a premonition that there would be a harvest in the next 2 days in Central City. Sure enough, his brother-in-law was caught by the enemy and thrown into the space of Godspeed. This made Barry feel terrible. He thought that it was caused by his own lack of ability. Thea hid in the dark and watched. Suddenly, she found that the siren was calling her. After thinking about it, she left a message for Caitlin to inform her at any time. She turned around and went to the soul trading house. What's the matter? It must be a big matter for the demigod Banshee to pay attention to it. Master, a woman with a deep obsession has entered the trading house. The Banshee said very respectfully. Thea saw the Banshee's serious look. Her interest was also piqued. She indicated that she should go and take a look. Both of them used invisibility magic and came to a small town in North Carolina. Other than the flagship store in Hollywood, their sole trading houses were basically in some small cities. Thea saw the person seeking to trade this time. She was a white woman in her 30s. She was wearing sunglasses and a hat. It seemed that she did not want people to see her true face. Judging from the exposed skin, this woman was not ugly. "Honorable guest, we have a lot of wealth and knowledge here, but you don't want them all. I have to say it's a pity," a banshee who looked like a siren said pretentiously. It was the young woman's first time entering such a strange place. It would be a lie if she said that she was not afraid. However, when she thought of the great price she had paid to find this place, she still mustered up the courage to ask. "I have already made my request. I will pay whatever price you want me to pay. I'm so tired, so tired. I just want people to value me, to value my perfect research results. The Mercury Laboratory can't give me that, nor can the Quinn Corporation. Only here can I have everything I've been dreaming of." The young woman was panting heavily. At first, she spoke gently, but later on, she became angrier and angrier. Huh! Thea, who was watching from the side, was stunned. After so long, this woman is my employee? Chapter 789. Was this young woman a member of the Mercury Laboratory? Thea had an impression of Mercury Laboratory. It was a powerful R&D organization that was not inferior to Reverse Lightning's cutting-edge technology laboratory. The laboratory was indeed under her name, but she had millions of employees all over the world, so she did not know this woman. As the store manager, the banshee knew that her boss and her boss were secretly observing her. She asked the question again cunningly. "Dear customer, if you want to attract attention and pursue an extreme, you need super speed. Is that right?" the banshee asked. The woman's voice trembled. "That's right, extreme speed, the fastest speed." Afraid that she would be deceived by the employee, the woman was very cautious. She said word by word, "I want the fastest speed. Don't try to fool me with the super speed of a normal mutant. I'm also a researcher. I can judge the details myself." In fact, she was just using words to pave the way. If the trading house could not meet her requirements, she felt that she could choose not to pay the price. "This woman is a little cunning," Thea and Siren whispered. "Do you need me to teach her an unforgettable lesson?" The Banshee Queen, who was born with no sunshine and justice, began to condense a soul arrow in her hand. "Haha, don't be hasty. Let's keep her in suspense. It's a fair trade. I want to see how determined she is." Thea stopped Siren, and the two continued to watch the show. "Do you know the Flash of Central City?" The young woman felt that the store manager in front of her was a flirtatious B*TCH. She suspected that the store manager was not in the same dimension as Earth. In the end, she was proven wrong. The Banshee store manager nodded. "We know the Flash." The young woman was a little surprised. She thought that this store was an independent place, but now it seemed that it was not so simple. However, she did not dwell on this question. Instead, she asked, "Can you provide that kind of speed?" "Yes, but the price is unimaginably high. I'm willing to pay, as long as I have it." The young woman's eyes shone with a kind of conviction. Even if it was only for a second, she wanted to show off in front of others. Thea looked at the woman calmly. After being ignored for a long time, her vanity had reached an unimaginable level. No wonder Siren said that she was the most stubborn. After her glory days, she was destined to embark on a different path. She was the person he needed to find. Thea raised her hand and performed a partial time stop, slowing down the young woman's consciousness by 1,000 times. "I'll be back soon." After saying that, Thea returned to Central City. She called Caitlin out. When they were on Earth 2, Caitlin and Dr. Wells had researched the speed potion V9. It was because of this potion that extreme speed was able to surpass Barry by a large margin. However, Thea had intercepted the world's speed and defeated extreme speed. The two speed potions that were originally created had been kept in Caitlin's hands. Knowing her intentions, Caitlin hurriedly made 5 bottles and gave them to Thea, including the 2 bottles she already had. After returning to North Carolina, Thea had to package the potion slightly. Test tubes and solutions looked like technological products, which was not conducive to the mysterious atmosphere of the Room of Everything. She removed the modern elements and took out a tree heart from the tree outside. She hollowed it out and poured the potion inside. Considering the young woman's physical endurance, she was not extreme speed or Barry. She was just an ordinary person. Even if she relied on the potion to increase her speed, her body would not be able to withstand the long-term consumption. She made 3 bottles of the tree heart version of the potion and gave them to the Banshee shop manager. With a snap of her fingers, Thea cancelled the partial time stop. The young woman's consciousness was still in the conversational stage. She continued to ask with uncertainty, "Can you let me have that kind of speed?" The Banshee shop manager knew that the boss of the Banshee shop manager valued this woman very much. She restrained her attitude and answered seriously, "Yes, absolutely. But your body can't withstand that kind of speed. If you use it, we're afraid that you..." The young woman interrupted her. "I'm a scientist. I know the consequences. I just want to know, what is the price to pay for that kind of speed? Your soul. After your death, your soul will enter my master's country and will serve him for a very long time," the Banshee shop manager said eerily. The young woman was skeptical. The scientist part of her did not believe a word. What soul? She must be lying. But if the other party could really use the speed of the Flash, she felt that the other party was not bluffing. She was both skeptical and expectant. That was how she felt at the moment. After a little hesitation, she thought of the legend that a third-tier Hollywood star suddenly awakened an incredible talent overnight. Her thoughts became firm again. No matter if it's true or not, this is my choice. Come on. Seeing that she had made up her mind, the shop manager took out 3 fist-sized tree hearts and put them on the table. Such a fantastical design really surprised the young woman a little. Did the Flash also use this thing to obtain his superpowers? Drink the liquid inside and you will gain superspeed. It will be comparable to the Flash's speed. The young woman picked it up and looked at both sides. The design was quite human-like. There was a gap at the side of the tree heart. When one wanted to drink it, one could just tilt one's neck and fall down. Shaking it, there seemed to be the sound of water. Looking through the gap, one could vaguely see that there was a blue liquid inside. It will take effect for about 3 seconds. Is there anything else you need? Actually, it only took a second for the intravenous injection to take effect. Thea's oral version was slower, but the effect was the same. Keeping the 3 strange tree hearts, the young woman left the shop without looking back. That night, at a charity banquet in Central City, the young woman named Eliza Harmon finally took her first step. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she transformed into a yellow bolt of lightning and stole everyone's wallets. Using the codename Ballistic, she committed several crimes consecutively. The entire city was spreading the news that the Flash had finally turned bad. Hearing the news, Barry hurriedly chased after her. A pirated version of her superspeed was definitely not as good as her own son. Harmon fell behind by a large margin. The woman was ruthless and drank another bottle of reagent. Only then did the 2 of them catch up. Barry's words did not dispel her obsession. Instead, it made her walk to the edge of being more radical. Miss Ballistic chose to drink the 3rd bottle of reagent. At the crucial moment, Thea could not bear to see her turn into ashes. With a flick of her finger, she knocked away the magical bottle in her hand. Miss Ballistic clearly recognized her. She glared at her and wanted to scold her. "Let's stop here." Thea pointed her finger in the air. Miss Ballistic, whose body was already on the verge of collapse, had no strength to fight back and was knocked unconscious. "Barry, this fellow seems to have obtained her superspeed through magic. Leave it to me to investigate." Barry had a basket of matters to deal with. He had to beat up Savitar and rescue his brother-in-law. He really did not have the mind to care about this extreme speed that appeared out of nowhere. However, when he saw Thea, he recalled the matter of dealing with extreme speed. Can the method of collecting superspeed be used last time?" Thea very honestly communicated with the will of the world and shook her head. Sorry, the will of the world ignored my request. This is different from Earth 2. Our world did not encounter any danger, so it will not participate in the struggle. Unfortunately, the method from last time cannot be used. Barry was helpless. He asked about Batman and learned that there was no clue. He sighed and waved goodbye to her. Chapter 790. After separating from Barry, Thea dragged the unconscious woman to a house. Yep, the properties under her name were all over the world. She looked at the woman without saying a word. This Miss Ballistic didn't have any potential to be a hero. Once she obtained superpowers, she robbed the rich. It could be explained as robbing the rich to help the poor. However, she then went on to rob the Mercury Laboratory and the Midtown police station. This was definitely revenge. If she wasn't a woman, Thea would just hide and watch her turn into ashes. The other party's consciousness was still immersed in the high-speed running state. Thea examined her for a moment and helped her stabilize her soul. Miss Ballistic slowly woke up. It's you. From her tone, she still remembered what happened. Looks like you know me. That's good. You were in danger before if you drank this. Thea shook the tree heart potion. You would have turned into ashes because your speed exceeded the limits of your body. I'm happy. When did you rich people pay attention to the lives of ordinary people like us? You enjoy everyone's cheers. You're the chosen one, a superhero, and the world's love. What do you know? Me. Miss Ballistic bared her fangs and brandished her claws as if she wanted to eat her. Miss Eliza Harmon, I've seen your income and expenditure records. In the Mercury Laboratory, there are currently 29 ongoing research projects. As the person in charge of one of the projects, your annual salary is $750,000. After the laboratory was under my name, everyone's annual salary was raised by 10% to 3%. Your income doesn't seem to be at the bottom, right? Thea snorted. You can't even find the right point to criticize. Miss Ballistic was indeed speechless. She was tongue-tied and didn't know what to say. Thea continued. Do you know how much an intern in the Mercury Laboratory earns? I'm afraid you don't even care. It's less than 3% of your salary. What right do you have to say that you're at the bottom? Tell me. The young mistress had already accumulated a lot of anger because of the Batman incident. Now that she slammed the table and glared at her, Miss Ballistic, who used to be a researcher, was immediately intimidated. She didn't dare to talk about the bottom and top anymore. Thea pointed at the tree heart potion and asked, Tell me, where did you get this? Miss Ballistic didn't dare to hide anything. She recounted everything from the rumor that she would grant any request to the actual search and the final transaction. Thea frowned as if she had no idea what was going on. There's such a magic. Now that she had calmed down, Miss Ballistic's cautious nature as a researcher reared its ugly head. They want to take away my soul. Will I die? Would they be enslaved forever? I don't want to die yet. Her voice was very soft when she said the last sentence. Thea tapped her fingers on the table with an ugly expression. This is too weird. You didn't have super speed before? Is it all because of this bottle of potion? Miss Ballistic nodded furiously. I'm afraid you're in trouble. You have to stay away from those people. The question is, where should I hide? The headquarters of the Justice League? Miss Ballistic was about to cry. Thea coughed and finally revealed her foxtail. Miss Harmon, answer my question first. Do you like super speed? Just like the previous level? Of course I do. If not, I'll trade my life for it. Am I stupid? She nodded. How about this? I'll give you a job in the Justice League. You'll be able to avoid those pursuers and run to your heart's content. Now that the matter was related to the Justice League, it immediately became grand. Even if Miss Ballistic hated the heavens and earth, she actually admired the League. She hurriedly asked what the job was. Thea selectively explained the job, from Batman's disappearance to eliminating illegal transmigrators. The legal transmigrators were of course the Young Ladies' Council of Time Masters. Yep, that's what the young lady thought. Miss Ballistic was intimidated by the Justice League's reputation and agreed without much hesitation. She naturally had to dress up. Her female appearance could be used normally, but it had to be intimidating when catching transmigrators. Thea made Miss Ballistic a tattered black robe according to Harry Potter's demonic appearance. "That's much better. Run a few steps for me to see," Thea said. With a whoosh, she flew out. Her speed was so fast that even the eyes of the main body couldn't catch up to her. Most importantly, she didn't pass through walls like an extreme speed user. Instead, she was in a formless state like the Martian Manhunter. "Miss Harmon, from the looks of it, you used too much speed earlier. You'll be fine normally, but once you start running, you'll enter a half-spirit state. You'd better enter the river of time as soon as possible. The longer you delay, the faster your body will transform," Thea said half-truthfully. Miss Ballistic was usually called by her real name, but she could change her name to Time Ghost when she wore her uniform. But now, there was only one high-speed pursuer and a whole bunch of other extreme speed users. She couldn't catch up to them all by herself. Thea remembered that extreme speed had been captured by the Time Ghost, so where was he now? If extreme speed was in her hands, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. The young mistress injected a strand of pure divine soul power into Miss Ballistic's body. According to her classification, soul power was divided into dead souls and living souls. The dead were all dead souls, and they had a lot of resentment and impurities. The souls traded from the living were all living souls, so they were much purer. What she was injecting now was precisely the power of living souls. Thea was exhausted from injecting such a strand of divine soul power, but it was worth it. Miss Ballistic had used the power of divine speed, and according to the rules, she should have entered the divine speed space to lie dead. Now that Sia had intercepted her, she had been tainted by the divine power of the soul, and her ownership had changed to the time system of her soul wealth. It could be said that she and the divine speed space represented by speed were two different units. Sigh. The young mistress sighed and opened a teleportation gate that led to the vanishing point. She left the rest of the arrangements to her clone. "Go on in and complete your mission." With that, she sent Miss Ballistic in. "Check your memories." Before Miss Ballistic could even look at this strange place, Sia's doppelganger ordered. The divine soul power didn't just give her some abilities, it also covered her own timeline with Thea's timeline. All the past was based on Thea's timeline. Miss Ballistic, who had already become a demigod, had an indescribable look in her eyes. The timeline stopped in the present, the future was still shrouded in fog, and the past was both clear and blurry. "Why are my memories so blurry?" Miss Ballistic couldn't tell the difference between the clone and the main body. She thought that Thea had come with her. Because there are too many powerhouses in the universe. They walk through time and leave behind traces, but you can't see their true faces. Thea said mysteriously. She had only opened up a portion of the Time Port's authority. Her words were one reason, and another was to prevent Miss Ballistic from knowing the whole story of her purchase of the medicine. In Thea's view, this was to protect her from being silenced, and to ensure that she was in a good mood while working. "Bring him over," Thea said meaningfully when she saw that Miss Ballistic had finished accepting the memories on the timeline. Miss Ballistic's eyes flashed with a strange light. A silver-white vortex spun, and a tall man was thrown out. Chapter 791. The characteristics of the vanishing point allowed them to transcend time. Even deities were affected by time. To Thea, this guy was already a person from 2 years ago, but to him, only a second had passed, not even 2 seconds. "Mr. Speed, long time no see." Thea smiled brightly when she saw the skin on Speed's face that had been corroded by soul power. Speed's memory was still stuck at the time when the Plains Wolves of the Second Wasteland were defeated and he was racing with Barry Aaron. When he saw the smiling Thea, he didn't care where he was and turned to run. Exerting force with both legs, eh? His legs didn't move. Run again. He couldn't even feel his waist. Thea looked at him calmly. "You've been infected by my soul power. How can I let you run before I finish speaking? What do you want to do?" Extreme Speed quickly understood the situation he was in and asked calmly. You're very wise. Now you have two choices. One is to let my subordinate throw you into the seraphic speed force space, which is this person beside me. Thea pointed at Miss Ballistic. The other is to turn into black lightning and work for me. Mr. Speed, make your choice. Speed kept looking at this strange island from the corner of his eyes. His knowledge far exceeded Miss Ballistic's, and he quickly realized that this place was independent of the timeline. TMPH, what's the difference between the two? He probed. You want benefits. Sorry, I don't pay you, but I'm much more humane than the seraphic speed force space. If you enter the seraphic speed force space, you'll only become a part of the space. Your past, memories, abilities, and speed will all become nutrients for the space. If you work for me, you'll still be you. The job is also very simple. You just have to catch some extremely fast people who destroy the timeline. How about it? Very generous, right? Was it to completely erase his consciousness or to work for someone else? He quickly and happily agreed, and received a Black Lightning sock puppet account. Thea knew that this guy was still thinking about escaping, but she didn't care. She could sense the subtle changes in the soul. After a few attempts and realizing that he couldn't escape, Mr. Speed would fall in love with this job of eating, sleeping, and fighting transmigrators. Now Thea understood why Caitlin was able to one-shot Black Lightning in the future Battle of Savitar. It wasn't because Caitlin was strong, but because they were all under the same boss. It was all an act. Thea was overjoyed that she managed to snatch two powerful employees from the space of divine speed. Miss Ballistic handed over the Godspeed device specially made for her main body to her clone. Thea's doppelganger saw that she and Extreme Speed had nothing to do, so she grabbed them to help out. One of them was a scientist at the Mercury Laboratory, while the other was a scientific expert who could improve speed potions. The three of them were busy for a few days, and the super machine named Arcane Nuclear I-2.0 was finally up and running. The huge changes in the timeline were categorized and marked. The super high computing speed and powerful energy source, as well as the behemoth special trait of being immersed in the river of time for a long time, finally stopped them from having to search for Batman like headless flies. After Extreme Speed failed to escape several times, he decided to behave for the time being. In order to test the performance of Arcane Nuclear I-2.0, two powerful fighters were sent out to find transmigrators, and then there was only one word: fight. For a while, a bunch of speed users in the River of Time met with bloody misfortune. Thea sat behind the screen and watched as the two of them chased the speed users around like chickens and dogs. From Barry Allen, Don Allen, Bart Allen, Siler Allen. The heroes of the three great speed user families, the Allen family, the West family, and the Swan family, were chased to the point of no return. The problem of the speed users randomly crossing timelines was finally solved. Thea finally had time to look at the results of the Golden Vanguard's training after dealing with the speed users. She was almost pissed off when she saw the results. Classic soldiers. They were genuine soldiers with an average age of 45 and above. They were experts at bragging and chatting, but as for combat, you must be kidding. These people are not good enough. If we throw them into a primitive society, I'm afraid they will starve to death before the time error is corrected. Thea pulled the Golden Vanguard aside and said with some dissatisfaction. The Golden Vanguard was also very distressed. He was a quarterback and had no problem playing football, but it was really difficult for him to train soldiers, especially under the premise that the quality of the soldiers was so poor. Well, let's arm them with high-tech weapons. In the end, he said this after hesitating for a while. Oh, you're willing to provide high-tech weapons? Thea was a little surprised. The Golden Vanguard hurriedly waved his hand. Not me, it's you. They can use the weapons you provide. Thea looked at his serious face and did not know what logic was in it. After thinking about it, she still had to contact the main body. 3 days later, the main body got a lot of weapons and warships and directly atomized them into a package, which was sent to the vanishing point by the Golden Vanguard. They were once again atomized and distributed. Looking at a group of uncles and aunties holding energy guns and touching the warships, Thea did not know who to complain to. Of course, The equipment was from the Alien Administrative Committee. The warships were copied from the one on the moon of planet Dynamo. Its stealth ability was top-notch, but its combat ability? Let's talk about something else. Not to mention the energy guns. Back then, Thea had wondered why the technological weapons of the Master of Time Council were so weak. Now, the truth was finally revealed. These were all knockoffs made according to the alien weapons, which were not more than 20 years old compared to the current human technology level. I'll leave this to you. I'll go back to Earth. The team was set up. The doppelganger did not explain much and handed the task of searching for Batman and eliminating the time error to the Golden Vanguard. Her spiritual power was divided between two places, and it was too much for her. She had to go back and rest for 2 days. After lying in the White House for 2 days, she was kicked out by Moira. According to her mother, she was so busy that her feet hit the back of her head, but she was sleeping by the side. Just stay where it's cool. Walking alone on the street, Thea was a little distracted. In fact, she still had a lot of things to do, but she did not have the energy to do them. Now, she just wanted to lie down. On the other side of Earth, Diana was working hard to teach her disciple, and Thea did not want to disturb her. The people of the main alliance were either fighting monsters or on the way to fighting monsters. They were all busy. The young lady was sitting on a bench on the side of the road in a daze. While her mind was wandering, she saw a familiar figure walk past her. Kara. The young lady hurriedly grabbed the distracted Supergirl. She was just walking when a living person suddenly jumped out from beside her. The young lady was really shocked, and only when she saw that it was Thea did she breathe a sigh of relief. The young lady, who was also a little unhappy, sat down beside her. Chapter 792. Seeing that Kara had something to say, Thea did not want to sit on the side of the road for onlookers, so she interrupted her. Let's go for a drink. The two women went to the base of the Star City Female Alliance and found a bar under her name. Come on, try this. It's the strong liquor of the Teruyans. Even a Kryptonian like you can't stand it. Don't believe me? Try it. Thea put a glass of liquor in front of Kara and motioned her to drink it quickly. Then she quickly told a story. She was going to drink while listening to other people's bad luck. Earth's alcohol was indeed useless to Kryptonians. Kara had secretly drunk it a few times, but it tasted tasteless and she never drank it again. Now, seeing that Thea wanted to try it, she picked up a glass and poured it down her throat. The golden liquid went down her esophagus and into her stomach. The little girl felt a burning heat rushing from her stomach to her mouth. It's not bad. Kara was a little surprised. This kind of alcohol was very suitable for the Kryptonian stomach. Thea took out a small delicate bottle and poured a glass for her. Try this. It's the fine wine of Dionysus. This is the collection of the god of wine. Ordinary people can't drink it. Kara was a bad student. She knew Apollo because she had fought with him twice. She did not know who the god of wine was. Even though she had seen him in the Underworld War, she did not know who he was. But this time, the wine was refreshing, and the aftertaste lingered. Even Kara, who did not know how to taste wine, thought it was good wine. As for what was good about it, she could not tell. Let's continue. There's more here. Thea had collected a lot of good wine in her dimensional ring. The bars here were her private properties. No one dared to stop her from bringing her own wine. After drinking all kinds of fine wines, the Kryptonian's body could not take it anymore. Thea did not drink as fast as Kara. Instead, she drank slowly. After a while, Kara's mood finally recovered. She began to tell her story intermittently. Of course I had to take care of the plane crash, right? After that, we were attacked twice. I didn't know she was from the Luthor family. I don't think the Luthor family is all bad people, right? Clark's a busybody, burp. Lena's not a bad person, burp. The little girl was indeed a little drunk. Many things she said were incoherent and messy. However, eldest Miss's ability to understand was amazing. She slowly pieced together the truth. She didn't know if it was because of the Black Hand in the business war or an accident, but one day, when Lena Luthor was on a plane, The engine stalled and she suddenly fell. Kara, who was passing by, stepped forward and caught the plane. Lena, who was sitting by the window, saw Kara's back as he flew away. Their strange fate began. After that, a bunch of aliens attacked Supergirl, and the battle involved Lena. It was yet another melodramatic experience. The two young ladies worked together to defeat a strong enemy. They went through thick and thin together, and after the battle, they left each other's contact information. In the end, Kara chatted with Lena a few times using her sock puppet account, Supergirl. Kara and Lena, who didn't have many friends of the same age, unexpectedly hit it off. This girl said that she had an evil brother, who was under heavy pressure every day. This girl said that she had a cousin who was like an uncle, who was restricting her freedom. The two mature and rebellious young ladies started chatting. Lena admired Kara's courage, and Kara envied Lena's wisdom. The two were already very good friends. It was at this time that Superman found out about this matter. Good Samaritan Clark, on the other hand, didn't slam the table and glare at Kara. Instead, he spoke the truth and laid out the truth. He earnestly talked nonsense with Kara for an entire day. In conclusion, there were no good people in the Luthor family. Little Supergirl naturally resisted strongly. In her heart, she was her cousin. How could she be educated by her cousin? Superman's temper was unusually good. What's more, Kara was his only remaining Kryptonian relative. He didn't say anything harsh, but he implied that his son was already 10 years old, and she was only a few years older than him. So, she should listen to him. Kara was very unhappy, but she was amenable to coaxing and not coercion. Superman's gentle words didn't make her refute. She could only run out in a huff and was picked up by Thea, who had nothing to do. Thea considered her words. I've seen Lena. Although she's Luthor's sister, she's not a bad person. You're right. Kara, who was a little drunk, patted Thea's shoulder. She was so strong that an ordinary person would have been killed. From Clark's point of view, there are no good people in the Luthor family. This is too biased. Lena has never done anything bad, and Luthor isn't simply a bad person either. I've dealt with Luthor a few times. Although he's arrogant, vain, and ambitious, he has a bottom line. He's protecting the Earth in his own way. To some extent, he's a bit like Batman. He's worried that the Kryptonians will lose control, so he's deliberately researching countermeasures. In fact, strictly speaking, there's only one bad person in the Luthor family, and that's their mother. She's really bad. Thea had never regarded Luthor as an enemy. He was a charismatic figure. Without her, Superman, and Batman, he would undoubtedly be a leader who would lead mankind to the top. She, who controlled the global resources, knew very well that the Luthor family could be said to be divided into 3 parts. Lena was still maintaining the old Luthor group, which showed signs of revitalization in her hands. She was considered a moderate. After Luthor was released from prison, he quickly sorted out his previous contacts. He had developed a set of photovoltaic power equipment in prison, and was currently laying the groundwork. He was considered a neutral party. Their mother, Letitia Luthor, was the epitome of menopausal syndrome in Sia's eyes. This old woman had taken over the Cadmus project and hid underground every day to do all kinds of research. She would do anything to deceive people. She was definitely a radical. However, she didn't have Luthor's wisdom, nor Lena's affinity. She was ambitious but not talented. After several years of hard work, she hadn't achieved anything. Thea had been too lazy to pay attention to her. Hearing Thea talk about Luthor and Lena's mother, Kara resonated. Yes, this woman is too bad. Don't worry about Clark. Trust your own judgment. If you think Lena is a good person, it's not a big deal to be friends with her. Don't worry about Clark. He's just scared of Luthor. Coward. Kara, the younger cousin, scolded her older cousin in disdain. Thea also drank a lot. She patted her chest and said, "Be brave. What are you afraid of? Look at me, I'm not afraid at all. If you want to give others courage, you have to give yourself courage first, right?" "Yes. Well said. Let's have another glass." The two drank 2 more glasses in confusion. Thea's so-called fearlessness was more about the strong enemies. She was just using the alcohol to cheer herself up. However, her words had a different meaning in Kara's ears. The little girl had only heard that the enemies were very strong, but she had never seen them. She couldn't understand Thea's cautiousness and bravery. Her little brain automatically thought of love. In her opinion, Sister Thea and Sister Diana were brave to face the strange looks of the world. Compared to her own depression after being scolded by her older cousin, they deserved to be called warriors. Sia was like an understanding elder sister. She started talking nonsense again. She talked about having to be happy as a person, and about trusting one's intuition. She talked a lot. Her mental power had been dragged down by the river of time. Although her avatar had returned, it was still in a bad state. When she felt that she had drunk enough and heard the story, she found a place to sleep. Kara drank 2 more glasses. Seeing that Thea had left, she also walked out dizzily. The Kryptonian's genes were really strong. She almost couldn't recognize the way, but after basking in the sun for a while, she became sober. Supergirl, who was still a little dizzy, changed into a blue bodysuit and a red cloak. She found the right direction and flew towards Nashonial City. She wanted to find Lena and clarify things. The Arya family and the Luthor family were not mortal enemies. Even if the Luthor family and Superman were still enemies, it should not affect their friendship. They still wanted to continue being good friends and best friends. Chapter 793. After Lena took over the Luthor group, she wisely moved out of the metropolis in the face of countless criticisms from the citizens of the metropolis. Now, the group had rebuilt the L building in Nashonial City, which was the tallest building in the city. Many people saw her confidence in restoring her reputation. It could be said that the Luthor group had walked out of the haze and recovered some of its vitality. Kara and Thea drank lunch and flew dizzily. When they arrived at Nashonial City, the sunset had already been left behind. The little girl was very calm. She wanted to have a good talk with her good friend. She didn't jump in through the window. She felt that if they were friends, then they should know each other's true identities. There were heroes everywhere. It didn't matter if she had to hide it from ordinary people. Did she need to hide it from her friends? She was going to use her real name to meet Lena. Kara took off her cloak and tights and changed into a plaid shirt, jeans, and large-rimmed glasses. She looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to her. She quickly ran past the front desk, entered the elevator, and went straight to the top floor. She was familiar with the way to the door. Just as she was about to push the door open, she heard a faint quarrel inside. However, the soundproofing effect of the door was too good, so she couldn't hear it clearly. Kara took off her glasses and used her ability to listen to the noise inside. "I won't give you money to do those harmful things. It's a crime. You've turned the reputation I've worked so hard to restore into a joke. I don't want to see you again. Please leave." A young woman's voice sounded. It was loud and powerful, showing the owner's firm belief and unwavering determination. Kara could tell that it was Lena Luthor. "Shut up. The whole Luthor group is mine. You're just the adopted daughter of the Luthor family. If it weren't for Lex's protection, you wouldn't have the right to talk to me like that." An old woman scolded Lena. Lena sneered. "Adopted daughter? Madam Luthor is so kind. Would you adopt a poor child on the street? Do you think I don't know? Lex and I are half-siblings. Adopted daughter? You have the nerve to say that. My mother died without knowing the reason. Don't tell me you don't know anything." The old woman shouted angrily. "You're just a wolf. Go and subdue her. Get her to sign and transfer the funds to the project." Then, there seemed to be fierce resistance from inside. Unfortunately, Lena was just an ordinary person. She might have some self-defense skills, but in the face of the thugs brought by her stepmother, her resistance was extremely weak. However, the goddess of luck was on her side today. She was powerless to resist. There was a fierce woman outside the door, a slightly drunk fierce woman. Kara threw away her glasses and kicked the door open. She then knocked out the stepmother who was threatening Lena with a gun. She had always disliked this old woman, and now she looked like a bad person. But when dealing with another tall man, Kara was sent flying with a punch. You are. At this time, Kara was not wearing tights or a cape, but she was a supergirl. Lena quickly confirmed the identity of this reinforcement. Kara gave her a reassuring look and assumed an attacking posture, concentrating on the enemy in front of him. Another Kryptonian? Ha. The tall man let go of Lena and looked at Kara gloomily. If Thea was here, she would definitely recognize this guy. This guy used to be Luther's subordinate, the Metal Man. He once fought to a draw with Red Whirlwind. After the Battle of Doomsday, he joined Luther's mother. With his ruthless style and metal body, he had been an important fighter in the Cadmus project. Kara did not know how powerful the enemy was. She only felt that she was very weak now. She thought it was the effect of being drunk. Until the enemy tore open his coat and revealed a large green piece of kryptonite on his chest, she knew what the problem was. Lena, run, I'll hold him back. Kara wanted her new friend to run. However, she looked so weak that no matter how he looked at it, he didn't feel at ease. Lena was quite a brave person. She did not abandon her friend and run away alone. Instead, she took out a pistol from under the table and pointed it at the Metal Man. Seeing that she did not run, the Metal Man laughed. He was not good at speed and could not catch two people at the same time. Now it was convenient. He pounced on Lena, ready to knock out the target of this mission. After that, he would deal with Supergirl, who was dizzy under the radiation of the kryptonite. Bang! Lena's marksmanship was very accurate. She shot the Metal Man in the forehead. But as Luther's weapon against Superman, how could he be hurt by a gun? The bullet hit the left side of his forehead with a crisp sound of metal hitting metal. It only left a hole in his skin before the bullet fell out. D*MN, bionic skin? Is this the Terminator? Lena's legs went weak when she saw the 2-meter-tall giant pouncing on her. At the critical moment, Kara flew up and kicked the Metal Man's waist. Kryptonite weakened her greatly, so her kick didn't even have 1/10 of her usual strength. Fortunately, Kara's close combat skills were much better than Kara's after being ravaged by Fura and Alex several times. She used a clever move and borrowed the enemy's strength to kick him down. The Metal Man patted the dust and stood up indifferently. He had a metal skeleton and a kryptonite heart. These were his trump cards. He might be strong against ordinary people, but he could easily crush the Kryptonians. The Metal Man was like a bison, pressing down on the two girls. Lena was stronger than ordinary women, but there was a limit to her strength. The mission to defeat the enemy was still up to Supergirl. Miss Thea had to be mentioned. She had built a red radiation room in the Female Alliance's base. Kara had been dragged in by Thea several times and beaten up by her. Kara was not too disappointed by the sudden loss of her superpower. It could be said that the weakening of the kryptonite did not disintegrate her fighting spirit. Kara tilted her head to avoid the Metal Man's straight punch. She turned to the side and hit the enemy's elbow joint. Her strength was less than 1/10 of her full strength. But if an ordinary person was hit by this strength, it would be like being hit by a train. A small crack appeared on the Metal Man's joint. Kara was overjoyed. She could defeat this enemy. Joint techniques were widely used in modern combat. There were many female superheroes who were good at this skill. Be it Alex or Cassandra, the big lowly, they were all very good at it. Kara had been beaten up more times and had slowly learned a few moves. It was just the right time to use it now. She hit the enemy's elbow joint and knee joint continuously. The Metal Man did not show any weakness. He fought back with his fists and feet. Kara, whose physical fitness had been greatly reduced, vomited blood. But the hard fight had stimulated her fighting spirit. So what if she had no superpower? She was still a warrior. Lena, who had been in a peaceful situation for a long time, was a little overwhelmed when she saw her friend fighting with her life. Fortunately, she was born in the Luther family, so she was much braver than ordinary women. She slowly calmed down and began to analyze the situation. Calling the police would not work. She could not expose Kara's true identity, and the police would be useless. As for the security guards in her building, they were not in her consideration at all. Who else could she ask for help? The first person Lena thought of was Luther. This brother of hers was good to her, and the metal man was also his creation. Unfortunately, Luther was elusive, and Lena could not contact him at all. Moreover, she could not ask him. Luther and the Kryptonians could talk for 3 days and 3 nights. How could she ask him to help the Kryptonians defeat the metal man? It was unrealistic. Chapter 794. It seemed that she could only rely on herself. She could see that kryptonite was weakening Kara more and more. At first, he had been able to exert more than 10% of his strength, but now, he was less than 5%. Lena stared at the metal man's body thoughtfully. Metal skeleton, right? Let's see how much the electromagnetic field can affect you. She quickly took out a hexagonal metal device from the drawer. It was a small magnetic controller. Many of the technologies in it were the same as those used by Thea's skateboard. Later, it was simplified and sold to Luther Group as a patent. Luther Group quickly carried out research and completed various tests. Maglev cars were successfully introduced into the market. The device was kept in her office as a souvenir. Lena carefully avoided the metal man's sight and set up a fulcrum point in each of the 3 corners of the room. She then winked at Kara and pressed the switch. The electromagnetic field began to spread in the room. At first, the metal man did not feel anything. After 20 seconds, he realized that his limbs were sluggish. He wanted to escape, but Kara blocked him. When the electromagnetic field was turned on to the maximum, the metal man could not control his body at all. Kara knocked the metal man out like a dead dog. Lena hurriedly turned off the electromagnetic device. The 2 girls breathed a sigh of relief. The kryptonite in the metal man's chest could not be removed. If it was removed, he would die. However, they could not ignore this huge threat. Lena was indeed Luther's sister. She took out various high-tech devices and tested them. Finally, she covered the metal man's heart with a box made of lead and set a complicated password. If someone tried to crack it by force, the box and the heart would be blown to pieces. Without the influence of the kryptonite, Kara, who was about to collapse, immediately recovered. He called the Martian hunter, who quickly sent a DEO agent to take the metal man away. As for Lena's evil adoptive mother, she was taken away by the police for attempted kidnapping and extortion. Lena knew that her adoptive mother was very powerful and would probably be released in a few days. She just wanted to annoy this old woman. Kara and Lena planned to find a place to have a good chat, leaving the warlike office to be cleaned up by the staff tomorrow. Lena had the spirit of making the company her home. She had 2 bedrooms on the same floor as her office. Kara was badly beaten up. The radiation of the kryptonite had disappeared, and his body's self-healing ability began to take effect. Although his head and face were covered in blood, his body had already recovered by more than half. As his sister, Lena had seen many of Luther's experiments and knew a lot about the Kryptonians. She asked Kara to change her clothes. "I'm fine. All right. I'll go wash up." Kara was just about to say that he was fine, but when he turned his head and saw his face in the mirror, which was covered in blood, he hurriedly took back his words. After a simple wash, Kara tied her hair into a bun. Her clothes were all torn, so she could only wear Lena's long dress. She was much taller than Lena. Her long dress was like a short skirt, and her thighs were exposed. "Wow, you're completely fine?" Even though he knew that the Kryptonians had a freakish recovery ability, he was still so surprised that his mouth was wide open. Was he the one who had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood? "Haha, of course, I'm fine." Kara was so happy that he puffed out his chest like a proud peacock. Seeing that the atmosphere was good, Kara began to talk about his purpose of coming here. Hearing that this new friend valued her so much, Lena was very touched. In the business world where everyone was trying to cheat each other, sincere friendship was simply a luxury to her. She did not expect that she could also receive such a generous gift. "Come on, we're acquaintances now. Let's celebrate." Lena had good taste. Even though it was just a temporary residence, she had a small bar with many world-famous wines on the wine rack. She was going to open a bottle of good wine to celebrate with her new friend. Hey! Kara thought of something and rummaged through his clothes. Finally, he took out a small bottle. Shaking it, it seemed that there was still a lot of wine in it. Kara was very happy. Come and drink this. Lena took the small bottle, which looked only the size of a fist. How much wine could it hold? She was a little bit amused, but she did not say it out loud to save her friend's face. Well, this bottle is very delicate. It looks like a work of art. I got it from Sister Sia's place. I heard someone brewed it. Kara tilted his head and scratched his cheek for a long time. She really could not remember the smelly and long name of Dionyse. She only remembered that the wine was very delicious. Thea said that she would give it to her to drink slowly. At that time, she was dizzy and directly put it in her pocket. She did not expect that the small bottle was still intact. Hearing that it was Thea's, Lena was a little bit moved. Luther and Batman were quite similar in some aspects. Luther had collected a lot of information about Milady. As his sister, Lena also knew a lot of legends about Milady. Soon, she discovered the magic of the small bottle. After filling 2 glasses and shaking the bottle, the wine was still in the bottle. Even the weight of the bottle did not change. Drink it, drink it. As a poor student, Kara did not care about the weight of the bottle or the scientific problems involved. She just wanted to let her new friend taste the wine. Lena also put down her doubts about the wine bottle. She didn't try to be mysterious. Instead, she took a look at the golden liquid and drank it slowly. Well, it's delicious. The mellow liquid slid across the tip of her tongue. This was a kind of wine that quietly warmed the blood. Lena was sure that she had never drunk such good wine. Come, let's celebrate today's victory. Kara also drank a glass. The two of them drank one glass after another. At this moment, the enmity between the Arya family and the Luther family was thrown to the back of their minds. The dispute between Earthlings and aliens was no longer the main point. They were just 2 young girls under tremendous pressure. How dare he control me? Who does he think he is? I must teach him a lesson next time. Kara had drunk too much. The wine of Dionyse was famous for its lasting effect on Mount Olympus. If she fell asleep like Thea after drinking it, it would be fine. Unfortunately, Kara had a big fight with the metal men first. When her blood was boiling, she drank a second round. At this time, she was a little out of control and spoke incoherently. Fortunately, she remembered that she could not expose Superman's name, so she referred to him as him. Compared to Kara's strong body, Dionyse's wine was even more unbearable for ordinary people like Lena. She was known for her calmness and wisdom. At this time, she had forgotten her surname. Hearing Kara's self-righteous words, she echoed loudly, "Yes, they are a bunch of nosy people. We are good friends. Burp, don't worry about them." After saying that, she put her arms around Kara's neck drunkenly. "Supergirl, you, tell me the truth. Do you have a boyfriend?" Kara drank another glass irritably. "There are too many people who care about me. The boys in school are so tacky. They only care about appearance. Have you ever kissed?" Lena whispered in Kara's ear like a demon. "No, have you?" Kara answered honestly. "Neither have I. Do you want to try? Try. Or not?" After all, Kara had a strong body. In fact, there was still a trace of sobriety in her heart. Lena's words made her hesitate a little, but when she thought of the courage that Thea had talked about, she finally decided to try. Lena was a trustworthy friend. It would not kill her to give it a try anyway. The 2 women were self-taught. They tilted their necks and smelled each other's breath. For a moment, they were a little intoxicated. 500 words are omitted here. Chapter 795. The sun shone through the thick curtains and shone into the room. Kara, who was a little dizzy, finally woke up. She had never experienced a hangover before, but she felt uncomfortable. Did she catch a cold? She had never been sick, and she had only seen people on Earth fall sick. She thought that she must be sick. Kara was about to touch her forehead, but she didn't expect to touch a smooth body. She looked to her side mechanically. Lena! Why is she here? The fearless Supergirl was so scared that she almost screamed. She quickly covered her mouth with her other hand and shrank back into the bed like a quail. She looked at the ceiling with her big bright eyes, and she couldn't calm down. What happened yesterday? She was confused. After a long time, she recalled the part where they fought the metal men and drank together. What did I do after that? She seemed to have asked Lena if there was any secret to becoming bigger. Lena said to just rub it. Kara didn't know if she did or not. Her memory was fragmented. She only saw the two of them naked now. What happened after that must have been a combination of theory and reality. God, how did it become like this? Kara used her superpower to the extreme in an instant. She saw the moon with her supervision. Very good. No one was paying attention to her. She listened with her super hearing. No one was talking about her. Thank goodness. She turned around and saw that Lena hadn't woken up yet. She quickly got down and picked up the clothes on the ground. She didn't care if they were hers. She put them on and flew out. As soon as she left, Lena sat up. Lena had already woken up. After all, she was an Earthling. She had to socialize in the business field. She was more resistant to alcohol, and she didn't drink much. It was just that she didn't know how to deal with this matter. Her best friend seemed to have become even more close now. She, who had always prided herself on her intelligence, wasn't much better than Kara. Both of them had chosen to be an ostrich. It was a little cold in the morning, but Kara couldn't care less. She ran home as fast as she could and poured herself a glass of water. She needed to calm down. Cold water poured into her stomach. She felt that she had finally regained some ability to think. Her friendship with Lena seemed to have developed too quickly. How should she deal with this relationship in the future? She was originally a very simple girl, but now she was completely in a mess. Just when she was at a loss, she noticed that her sister, Alex, wasn't there. The two sisters shared an apartment, so there was no reason that Alex didn't notice her rushing in. Where was she? When Kara was wondering if something had happened to her sister, she saw Alex sneaking into the room with a pair of big sunglasses. Hey! Haha, you're up so early. Seeing Kara standing at the door, Alex's face was filled with embarrassment. Kara was simple, not stupid. She looked at her sister suspiciously. What do you mean? You didn't come home last night? Alex didn't notice the change in her expression. She was completely immersed in her own affairs. After a long time, she seemed to have made up her mind and sat on the sofa. Kara, I want to talk to you about something. She hesitated, not knowing where to start. Kara's attention was diverted by her sister's safety. She temporarily put aside the matter between her and Lena, preparing to solve her sister's problem first. No, she felt that she could deal with any enemy. She needed a battle, a blood-boiling battle. Kara, do you remember that I had a good friend in high school? Alex said slowly. Yes, she was called Jessica or something. Yes, we were very close at the time. I used to stay at her house many times, and I really liked the smell of her house. I thought it was friendship, but now, it doesn't seem to be. Alex said, weighing her words. Kara was a little confused, but her strength was that she didn't think about things that she didn't understand. She nodded and signaled Alex to continue. I recently met a police officer, Maggie Sawyer. You've met her too. Kara's little head didn't understand why Alex's topic changed so much. What happened to this police officer named Maggie? Was he dead? Had he gone mad? I was with her last night, the whole time. Alex clenched her teeth and finished the sentence. Then she lowered her head like a criminal waiting to be sentenced. This sentence was a little vague. If Kara had been asked yesterday, she wouldn't have understood. But today, especially when she was also troubled by this question, it took her only a fifth of a second to understand. She relaxed a little. She was so lucky. The troubles of the two sisters happened on the same day. As for hiding it, Kara naturally thought about it. But when she thought of Thea's courage, she felt that since Alex had the courage to talk about it, she should have the courage too. Moreover, it wasn't a heinous thing. In the era when most Kryptonians chose to have test tube babies, it wasn't a big deal. At most, the Ull family was a little more traditional. She had to admit that the good traditions of the Kryptonians gave her confidence. Plus, with the previous incident with Thea and Diana, she really didn't think it was a bad or ridiculous thing. She just felt that it was a little difficult to know where to stand when facing Lena. "Alex, listen to me. Last night, I also..." She roughly told her what happened. Alex was stunned. She never thought that telling her family about her coming out of the closet would bring her such news. She wanted to scold Kara, but she realized that she was in no position to say anything. "Do you love her? She's a member of the Luthor family." Kara scratched her hair, looking very distressed. "We were just very good friends. I don't know what's going on now." The Danvers sisters were in a daze. Lena spent the whole morning in a daze. She arranged a bunch of tasks for her assistant and chased her out. Lena picked up the phone and was about to find someone to ask about it indirectly. The evil old lady had just been locked up in prison, so she gave up on this option. What about Luther's brother? Lena thought. If she talked to him about it, he would explode. She gave up on this option too. After thinking about it again and again, she called Miss Maisie. As Luther's former bodyguard, they naturally knew each other and had a good relationship. For a while, she even thought that Miss Maisie would marry Luther's brother and become her sister-in-law. After rambling for a long time, when she seemed to be chatting casually about women, something unexpected happened. The secretary was full of praise. Generally speaking, it was very good, and indescribably happy. Lena hung up the phone, dumbfounded. She couldn't help but ask herself, was it really that happy? She thought about what happened last night. Her memory was blurry, but she seemed to be quite happy. There was no burden or pressure at all. She turned on the computer and searched for Supergirl's majestic photo. She touched the screen gently. Her heart was filled with that living person. She was strong, optimistic, and cheerful. Kara had all the qualities she wanted but couldn't have. Lena twirled the pen in her left hand and fell into deep memories. From the first time they met, to the few times after that, it was as if there was a thread of fate that connected the two of them. She thought about what happened last night. She felt like she was flying on the clouds. That intoxicating and dreamy experience was still lingering in her mind. That didn't seem too bad. Chapter 796. Lena, who was staring blankly at the computer, heard a tapping sound on the window. She saw Supergirl looking at her with a serious expression. Lena quickly closed the computer. She didn't know if Supergirl had seen her touching the photo. She was nervous and hesitant. But she had been in the business world for many years, and she was much better at handling interpersonal relationships than Supergirl, who only knew how to argue. She opened the window with a strange expression and wanted to ask what was going on. Kara, who came to her window, had mustered up the courage of her life. It took her 30 minutes to fly to the window. Under normal circumstances, this amount of time was enough for her to fly to Mars. "Well, I want to talk to you." The little girl's voice was normal at first, but she started to tremble a little. Both of them were preoccupied, so they didn't notice. "Let's go to the roof," Lena tried to suggest. "Okay, I'll wait for you," Kara said and flew up with a whoosh. Lena was also nervous. She patted her cheeks gently and tried to relax, trying to regain some confidence. Unfortunately, no matter how calm she was still a weakling in the face of this matter. Not everyone could be as calm as Diana and Thea. She ran to the roof as fast as she could. The whistling wind made her a little unstable, but she didn't care at this time. Kara was sitting on the eaves, looking into the distance. The background was lonely and pitiful, like a small injured animal. Lena wanted to call her over, but she swallowed her words after opening her mouth twice. What was there to be afraid of? It's just the eaves. She took a deep breath and walked over with firm steps. Lena was confident that even if she fell, Kara would save her. This had nothing to do with their relationship. It was purely her kind nature. "Wow, why are you here?" Kara was shocked to see Lena sitting next to her. She was a Kryptonian, so she was not afraid. She would be fine even if she fell from the moon, let alone this height. But Lena didn't have that ability. If she fell from this height, even her parents wouldn't recognize her. To be honest, Kara was a little touched. She didn't know about love, but she knew that someone cared about her and her feelings to the extent that they were willing to risk their lives for her. For a moment, words seemed to have lost their meaning. The two sat side by side, enjoying a rare moment of peace. "Do you like me?" At this moment, Lena, who had the bloodline of the Luther family, was the more manly one. The two of them sat quietly for a long time before she finally broke the silence. Being rational to a certain extent was madness. Lena, who had always been rational since she was a child, was ready to go crazy today. Chao En-yu was shocked by her straightforward question, and her eyes widened. "Shouldn't we say something to ease the atmosphere first? Why is it so explosive right from the start?" Lena looked at her confused eyes and felt as if her heart had been stabbed by a knife. She loosened her hands, leaned forward, and fell to the ground. Kara's mind was blank, but his body still reacted. He grabbed her arm. "Let go." Lena's tone was very calm. "Don't, Lena, why?" Carla was so anxious that she was about to cry. It was as if she was the one hovering in the air and Lena was the one saving her. Her mind was filled with helplessness and panic. All she could think about was Sister Thea, Sister Diana, or Uncle Martian Hunter coming to save her. "Do you care about me?" "Nonsense. Come and hug me." Not on the ground, but in the air, Lena ordered domineeringly. Kara hugged her waist mechanically, afraid that she would fall. The two of them floated in the air together. It was already working hours. The pedestrians on the street noticed them. Some took pictures with their phones, some called the police, and most of them were discussing. However, they were too far and too high to see clearly. "Are you willing to be with me?" "Kara Danvers." "Sorry, I don't know your Kryptonian name." "Kara Zoair, Kara Zoair." "Are you willing to be with me?" Lena asked domineeringly again. She could see that this guy was a little out of ideas. If there was no one to push him, who knew what would happen in the end? Chao En-yu had already noticed the various pedestrians on the street. Without saying anything, she carried Lena and flew into the distance. "This feels so good. Is this how it feels to fly?" Lena trusted Kara. She opened her arms and enjoyed the pleasure of leaving the air behind her. "Say you're willing. Say you're willing. Say it." She said a little coquettishly. I'm willing. Kara finally said what was in her heart. It was as if a huge rock had been lifted off her shoulders. "Then fly faster. I want to play for the whole day. Faster." The two of them flew across the sky, leaving behind a string of laughter like two happy children. They did not know that there were people watching them from above the clouds. Thea and Superman appeared at the same time. The secretary had reported to her about Lena's unusual behavior 3 minutes ago. After that, Gideon saw the two girls confessing their feelings in the sky through the satellite. Thea was a little confused. Young people were so brave. She felt that she was getting old. She did not know that the courage in her words had played a major role in yesterday's drinking. The secretary had also helped her in time to strengthen Lena's conviction. Perhaps there was also the rebellious mentality of a young girl. In short, there were several factors that led to today's incident. She immediately instructed the secretary to clear all the records and teleport herself over. Superman arrived a little earlier than her. The two of them silently watched Chao En-yu and Lena fly away. Lena is not a bad person. Kara should have her own happiness. You're very open-minded. Superman smiled bitterly. What else could he do if he was not open-minded? The two of them waved and left. Thea was more experienced than Superman. She could see that Kara had admitted to 90%, but still had some misgivings in her heart. As her sister, she felt that it was her duty to help her strengthen her conviction and go further on this path. The Daxam in the original spacetime looked ugly and was obviously not a good match for Kara. However, she still needed to think about how to proceed. When she returned to the office, the secretary gave her another piece of news. Kara's sister, Alex, Was with a woman named Maggie Sawyer last night. Ah, you have a good relationship with Lena. Do you think we can help? Thea asked the secretary. The secretary pondered for a moment. I think Lena is not ready. Maybe we need to push her a little. How about this? Let's hold a party and let them put down their burdens. The Missy decided on the plan. She picked up the phone and started to contact everyone. She first called Batwoman, Kate Kane. She was Batman and Bruce's cousin and an old senior in the lesbian circle. She had confessed her sexual orientation 20 years ago and was later expelled from West Point. Now, her lover was Gotham policewoman Renee Montoya, the future second-generation questioner. The two of them were only acquaintances, but when she heard Thea's purpose, Batwoman agreed without hesitation and prepared to use her villa as a meeting place. Thea contacted a few more people and prepared to hold a small party. There weren't many people at the party. As the hosts, Batwoman and Montoya, she and Diana, the secretary and Poison Ivy, the Danvers sisters, and finally, the Sea King's little friends, Yavara and Cassina. Well, a total of 12 people. Chapter 797. Considering that the Danvers sisters needed some time, there were also some who lived far away, such as Yavara who lived in the jungles of South America. Some had jobs, such as Renee Montoya and Maggie Sawyer, who were both police officers, decided to hold the party on the weekend. 2 days later, in the Hall of Justice, Thea welcomed the newcomers to the Alliance as an elder. The Green Arrow, Oliver Quinn, and the Atom Knight, Ray Palmer, had officially joined the Alliance. The original Batman was replaced by Dick Grayson, which no one had a problem with. However, the new Batman had no black technology, no money, and was 99% useless. Thea felt that it was enough to treat him as a mascot. The other replacement was the Green Lantern. The Guardians of OUA had reached the end of their patience with Hal Jordan and forced him to return to the main planet to wait for a new appointment. The new Green Lantern was given to a newcomer, John Stewart, a former Marine and a black Green Lantern. You don't look at me very kindly, young Green Lantern. Thea glanced around and saw the new Green Lantern looking at her angrily. Did this guy not take his medicine today? You are the leader of the Yellow Lanterns, and the Yellow Lanterns are evil, the new black Green Lantern said, a little annoyed. Ha ha. Thea smiled and stopped Diana and Oliver, indicating that she was fine. Her bell-like laughter echoed throughout the hall. You must have been told by the Guardians of the Little Blue Men. They want you to replace Hal Jordan? Their political skills are still so stiff. Thea immediately put a big label on the black Green Lantern. Although Hal had a lot of bad habits, he got along well with the Alliance. Whether it was the Flash or the Green Arrow, they were all very good friends. Now that they heard that he was transferred away because of political strife, the few of them looked at John Stewart unkindly. The Black Green Lantern did not realize that Thea was using Hal Jordan's popularity to isolate him. He was still talking about how evil the Yellow Lanterns were. The Yellow Lanterns sacrificed a lot in the last war. They are not evil. Diana stood up immediately. If this newcomer didn't say anything, she would teach him a lesson. Thea pulled Diana back. Why would she use her fists when she could defeat the enemy with just a few words? You keep saying that the yellow lamp is evil. Do you know who built the yellow lamp? Don't try to quibble. I know it's Sinisto. The green light thought that she was trying to shirk responsibility and felt that he had seen through her verbal trap. Yes, you're absolutely right, evil Sinisto. Is that what the Guardians say? The Black Green Lantern nodded, as if mentioning Sinisto's name tarnished his honor. Thea found it a little funny. I'm afraid the Guardians didn't tell you that the powerful lamp ring on your hand was worn by evil Sinisto when he was in the Green Lantern Corps, right? Haha. John Stewart's expression instantly turned interesting. At first, it was disbelief, then suspicion, and finally horror. However, his dark expression didn't make it obvious. Why didn't you throw away such an evil thing? Buried? Destroyed? She continued. The Guardians that you think represent justice probably didn't tell you that they built a space peacekeeping force before the Green Lantern Corps, mechanical hunters. These mechanical hunters went out of control and slaughtered an entire sector of intelligent life. That's why they built the Green Lantern Corps. Mr. Stewart, do you know that the survivors of this sector built the Red Lantern Corps? Do you know that they want to take revenge on the Green Lanterns? Do you think these survivors are evil? 79 planets with nearly 150 billion intelligent life were slaughtered by the Guardians that you claim to be incomparably righteous. Mr. Stewart, as the honor guard of Planet OU, as a law-abiding person, you must also think that these lives deserved to die, right? Her words were extremely tricky. In fact, she knew that the massacre had nothing to do with the Guardians and that it was Kelowna who was behind it. However, this Black Lantern didn't know, and the Guardians didn't know. That was enough. The information on both sides didn't match at all, so it was easy and enjoyable for her to criticize. Moreover, she pointed out John Stewart's identity as a member of the Honor Guard. Just by listening to his name, it was obvious that he was someone who obeyed orders. However, superheroes were a group of people who didn't obey orders. One could imagine that this Black Lantern's future in the Justice League wouldn't be too easy. After Thea finished blabbering, she didn't wait for him to answer. Her lips softly uttered a word, retard. She turned her head to the other side and whispered to Diana. The people from the Justice League looked at John Stewart a little strangely. This Black Lantern also sat down with lowered eyes. The atmosphere in the League was a little strange. The usually flamboyant Green Lantern was replaced, and Batman, who was always looking for trouble, was also replaced. The 9 of them had a simple exchange and announced the end of the meeting. "How's your female disciple?" Thea and Diana walked out of the Hall of Justice and strolled on the street. She asked casually. At the mention of her disciple, the Valkyrie showed a rare hint of worry. She thought about how to phrase it. "Overall, it's okay. However, she doesn't have any sense of urgency at all. She's always sloppy when she's training. You know, I worked very hard when I was young." After saying that, Diana waved her fist lightly. "Don't worry. Young people will get better slowly. Also, I remember that you didn't like to practice martial arts when you were young. You always played secretly when you could, right?" Thea smiled like a little fox. Diana glanced at her with her beautiful eyes. The meaning in her eyes was, "How do you know what I was like when I was young? When I was playing with mud, the 18 generations of your Quinn family weren't even born yet, right?" Thea waved her hand and showed a picture. In the picture, Diana was still a lowly. The goddess was very cute when she was young. With her small arms and legs, she was holding a toy that looked like an animal doll and eavesdropping on them. On the other side, Hippolyte and Antiope were complaining non-stop. The cute little Diana had picturesque eyebrows and a jade-like face. Although she was wearing plain clothes, her martial prowess could still be vaguely seen. Little Diana eavesdropped on her mother's conversation. Her bright eyes were filled with tears. She suppressed her reluctance and locked the toy in a box. She took out a small knife and a small sword and started practicing by herself. She said that she worked hard when she was young. Reality proved that it was obviously nonsense. Diana hurriedly dispelled her water curtain spell and looked around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to her, she exclaimed, "How did you see these pictures?" Haha, Thea was overjoyed. Her arcane core I2.0 had just come online. She had watched Diana's childhood through the river of time and saw many of the Valkyrie's dark history. As for the issue of using public resources for private purposes, she said that it didn't exist. Chapter 798. Diana lowered her head and thought about it. She was actually quite interested in seeing what it was like when she was young from today's perspective. She asked hesitantly and curiously, "Won't we mess up the timeline if we watch it casually?" Thea did not care at all. Although she was the self-proclaimed time manager, she felt that it was not a problem to do something within her scope of authority. "Is that so? Then can we go back and take a look?" "Sure, we might even find a time loophole." Thea said something that even she did not believe. They each created a clone and led Diana to the vanishing point and went back into the timeline. The scenery of Paradise Island was the same as before, or rather, it was the same as before. Thea chose the time 7 years after Diana was born. She did not dare to go any further as she was afraid that she would meet Zeus. The two goddesses were hiding in the forest, looking at the young Hippolyte and Antiope were talking. Not far away, there was a small figure hiding, eavesdropping as well. She seemed to have seen her mother's expectations of her behind her back, and she was a little conflicted. Quietly leaving the forest, little Diana returned to her place, put away all her toys, and reluctantly began to practice. Look, you were not much better than Casey when you were young. Thea covered her mouth and laughed. Diana's expression was strange. Looking back at time, she was not very hardworking when she was young. They were like invisible people, walking on the crowded Paradise Island. At this time, the Amazons had just started living here, and the tribe still maintained their primitive customs. The artistic buildings of the future did not appear, and Thea did not seem like much. However, Diana was in high spirits. The sea breeze blew their hair from time to time. Looking at the mountains in the distance, holding her lover's hand, walking on the land where she was born and raised, she was so happy that she could fly. Looking at the many younger versions of her tribe members running around, building their homes, she felt a joy from the bottom of her heart. "Are you happy?" Thea asked as if she was showing off a treasure. "Happy," Diana replied sweetly. "Then come to my place tonight." "But I promised Casey that I would rush back. Casey is so old, he won't die. Just make a call and say that the Zhonglian has a mission." Thea dispelled Diana's concerns with just a few words. According to her, if Diana, the teacher who brought her own food, were to disappear for a few days, the magical girl would realize the value of a teacher and would most likely study harder in the future. Knowing that she was talking nonsense, Diana still accepted her explanation. Diana was the one talking while Thea was the one listening. However, both of them were very restrained and did not use their magic power to do anything for Paradise Island. This was already the past. It was fine to watch, but it was taboo to get involved. Diana was walking forward when Thea suddenly grabbed her arm. The Valkyrie was very vigilant. Her bright eyes scanned the crowd and saw a woman as bright as the moonlight. "He can see me." This was the first reaction of the three women who met by chance. "Oh, Your Highness Artemis, I didn't expect to see you here." Thea was the strongest. She instantly saw through the other party's true identity. Although her current level was higher than the other party, Thea still bowed slightly to the other party as a form of greeting. Oh, hello." Diana was a little embarrassed. The moon goddess Artemis was her elder sister, but the relationship between the siblings of the Greek gods was really worrying. She just remembered that she had been blessed by Artemis when she was born, so she saluted. Moon God was shocked. She did not expect to run into two god spirits she had never seen before while she was out for a walk. Although they were all clones, she could tell many things from their characteristics. Diana gave her the feeling that she was like Apollo. She had a dignified aura and could not be looked at directly. Thea, on the other hand, could not see through her. She was a little like Hades, but she could not tell the difference. Realizing that she was a little rude, she hurriedly bowed to the two goddesses. The three goddesses did not speak. Thea and Diana were a little speechless. They did not expect to meet acquaintances on a trip. For a moment, they did not know what to say. The moon goddess was the first to speak. "Your Highnesses are not from the Greek gods, right? Are you the gods of the Mesopotamia?" They had seen the Egyptian gods before. Gods like Thea were one of the best even among the 9 pillar gods. There was no reason for them not to know her. Diana looked at Thea with a strange expression. The look in her eyes said, "How are we going to explain this?" "We came from the future to thank you, Your Highness," Thea said without blushing. This news shocked the moon goddess. Time was a forbidden area for the gods. Not to mention her, even Zeus did not dare to casually touch the timeline. Without a reference point, blindly entering the timeline would have an 80% chance of losing oneself. "Do I still have a future?" "Of course." Olympus prophesied that the eldest son of Zeus will kill one of his children and then ascend to the throne. "Is that true?" "It's a lie. It's pure nonsense." The moon goddess was completely unsettled. "I can't sleep thinking about it. Now you're telling me that it's a lie." "But Zeus's oracle, he said. The moon goddess hesitated. She did not know if she should talk about the secrets of her gods with these two unfamiliar gods. Thea sneered. Zeus was too cunning. He played his children in circles, tricking them into giving up their human faith and hiding in the god's kingdom to wait for death. Meanwhile, he was crazily grabbing every opportunity to reach the highest level. Did humans give up on the gods, or did the gods give up on humans? She did not dare to talk about this question lightly. This was a matter of the past to her. Humans had entered the age of technology. The age of the old gods and the gods of faith would come to an end sooner or later. Your Highness, the path of faith is ultimately limited. However, as long as the bright moon in the sky is still there, nothing will happen to you. Artemis's personality was very light, even a little aloof from worldly affairs. After being tricked by Thea, she completely extinguished the idea of participating in the battle of the gods. What happened next was logical. Sia had always felt that the moon goddess was unreasonably good to her back then. Now that the truth was out, she realized that it was all because of her own knowledge that she had given up on. There was no discerning eye, no familiarity at first sight. The inside story was actually a deal. It was a fair deal. She did not let the moon goddess suffer a loss. To prevent her from jumping into the pit, she also gave her some pointers from the perspective of a new god. It had to be said that the Greek gods spent a lot of effort on eating, drinking, and having fun. However, when it came to becoming stronger, they were all as slow as fools. Giving up the human faith and walking the path of the gods of nature, like Zeus, was the only choice for Artemis. You came from the future, so your knowledge must be 100 times better than mine. What is the world we live in? What is the position of our gods? The moon goddess asked at the end of the conversation. Hearing this question, Diana's eyes flashed. In fact, she did not know either. However, her intuition told her that Thea most likely knew. It was just that she did not say it. Sending a signal to your lover that you must say it today, Diana puts her hands in her pockets and is ready to listen carefully. Thea scratched her head a little. After thinking about it, she decided to say a small part. The universe is very big. There are unknown parallel universes. The world under our feet is one of them. She did not show off the concept of 52 universes. The new gods were unique, but the old gods were different. There was no need to deliberately show off this point. In the universe, there is an immeasurable power that divides the universe into 8 regions, called the realm of gods. They correspond to each other. They are dream, heaven, new creation, and heaven. Nightmare, hell, apocalypse, and underworld. We come from new creation. Our enemy, Darkseid, is in apocalypse. Many holy lands, including Mount Olympus, are in heaven. The underworld of Hades and Osiris is in underworld. Of course, the angels are in heaven, and the demons are in hell. As for dream and nightmare, they are too mysterious. I don't know. She briefly explained the realm of gods, and the moon goddess breathed a sigh of relief. She had always thought that she was not doing well. Now that she analyzed it, it seemed to be okay. Some of the urgency in her expression disappeared, and her temperament slowly calmed down. Thank you for your kind words. I look forward to our next meeting. Before Moon God left, she said something that had a double meaning. After sending the moon goddess off, Thea continued to walk around with Diana for the whole day. When they returned to the original space-time, they were going to the party on the weekend. Chapter 799. It was the weekend in Gotham City. It was heaven in the day and hell at night. The storm caused by Batman's disappearance had gradually calmed down. Dick Grayson was working very hard. Everyone could see that, but he was not Bruce after all. Thea took advantage of this opportunity to make a move on both sides. A large number of criminals were loaded into spaceships and taken away. For example, Batman's old rival, Penguin Man, was now mining coal on a planet 5 light-years away from Earth. Many of the underworld families were swept up several times, and all the core elites were captured. The remaining small fries were also beaten up badly by the Raptor squad led by Barbara, the new Batman, Dick, and Damian, the Robin. It could be said that security in Gotham was at its best right now. A new wave of criminals would definitely stand up, redivide the territory, and confirm a new boss. But that was a matter for the future. Welcome, Thea, Diana. As Bruce's cousin, Batwoman Kate Kane was also from a wealthy family. Her villa was located in the wealthy district. Unlike Wayne's old mansion, which only had one old butler, she had many helpers. The waiter at the door helped to open the car door. Thea was wearing a checkered chiffon blouse, a camel-colored skirt, and stilettos. Diana was wearing a white dress and black pointy heels. The two of them walked out of the car hand in hand with smiles on their faces. Batwoman, who was standing at the door to greet them, was not wearing the red and black battle suit. She was also wearing a very casual dress, like a gorgeous young woman. She looked much younger than Bruce, who had suffered so much. Thea and Diana hugged her gently and said jokingly, "Gotham's security has improved a lot. I was worried about a fight before I came. Haha, I'll leave Gotham to the young people from now on. I can retire." Batwoman laughed softly. They exchanged a few more pleasantries and walked into the venue together. The secretary and Poison Ivy had been there for a while. They greeted each other from afar and talked to each other. After a while, the Danvers sisters, Yavala, and Cassina entered the venue. Alex's lover, Maggie Sawyer, had a gentle smile that hid unquestionable faith. She was a very charming woman. As for Kane's lover, Renee Montoya, the future second-generation questioner, she didn't seem to speak much, but she had an unyielding bearing. These two were ordinary people. They were both police officers and had long announced that they had come out of the closet. They had a lot in common. She was wearing a tank top, revealing her smooth shoulders and arms. She was wearing a blue skirt and crystal high heels. She looked both ladylike and fashionable, much better than her usual rustic outfit. Needless to say, it was all thanks to Lena. Thea is amused to see her looking around and holding the expensive handbag as if it were a brick. "What are you afraid of? Will a Superman jump out of the bushes?" She turned around and patted Supergirl from behind. "Hi, Kara." The little girl hurriedly turned her head. From her expression, it was obvious that she had been startled. When she realized that it was Thea, she immediately relaxed. "How is it? Are you happy staying with Lena?" "Quite happy, but Lena is always controlling me." Kara pouted and complained. Thea smiled and patted her on the shoulder. This girl needed someone to control her. Otherwise, her days would definitely be muddled. Today's gathering was mainly for Carla, Alex, and Lena, the three novices, to strengthen their confidence. As for the rest, they had nothing to say. As the host, Kane had a brief talk with them and then left the meeting to them. As a veteran of the superheroes, Thea had always treated Kara as her sister. She was prepared to say a few words. "Today, we are gathered here to give our blessings to a few loving couples. Love knows no boundaries or gender. It is full of kindness. When two hearts are together, it will bring us endless strength. Love is not a burden, it is a gift." After the young lady finished speaking, she snapped her fingers. Ripples appeared in the magnificent villa. Before they could understand what was going on, they were already in a magnificent city with technology far beyond their imagination. The tall buildings with a metallic texture, the constantly patrolling spaceships, and the statues in the city square all revealed that this was an extraterrestrial civilization. They were not fools. 90% of Thea's gathering this time was prepared for Kara. She was the only alien present. It was not difficult for the girls to guess that this was Krypton, especially when they saw Kara's stunned expression. Thea revealed the answer. "This is Krypton. It is simulated using holographic technology. Take Lena and have a look." In order to build this virtual space, she found several people who had been to Krypton through the IBEN Business Alliance and inputted their memories to build a virtual simulation environment. Finally, she found Comrade Violent Wolf who had been to Krypton 7 times to test it. The similarity was as high as 99%. Fiora had also seen it in person and felt that there was no problem. Kara must have been only 10 years old at that time and could not see the subtle differences. At this time, Kara pulled Lena and ran in front while the rest slowly followed behind. They could vaguely hear Kara's introduction. This was someone's home, and there was a delicious shop there. Lena also wanted to know more about her lover's past. They talked and laughed as they walked. "Can't you take it back to the time before Krypton?" Diana asked in a low voice. Thea whispered back, "It's difficult. It involves a very complicated past. We should not touch it easily." After she self-proclaimed as the time manager, she realized how many secrets there were in time. The current board of governors could only do some mending work. They could intervene in the affairs of ordinary people, but once it was beyond Thea's level, they would be in the dark. There was no doubt that some big shots did not want to be seen. This was the situation on Krypton. The young lady chose to retreat. Using space technology, she could completely simulate the environment of Krypton, but it was not necessary. Kara also knew that this was all an illusion. She was very satisfied to see her hometown again. She was full of energy again. Karaoke played crazily for a whole day. She was so tired that she did not even recover when she sang in the evening. As the goddess of art, Thea's voice had reached a level beyond the sound of nature. However, she did not steal the limelight. She sang a simple song with Diana and then left the stage to karaoke. Surprisingly, Supergirl was very talented in music. She sang a few songs very beautifully. According to her boast, the word karaoke in her name meant karaoke. After confirming her love, Supergirl finally walked out of the confusion and glowed with her own spirit. Chapter 800. According to Thea's estimation, with the power of the Aya family and the wisdom of the Luthor family, Kara might go further than Superman in the future. At the end of the party, Dionysus showed its power again. The heroines and policewomen were drunk and went back to their rooms to sleep. The group of women played around for a whole day. Diana went back to teach her apprentice, and Thea began to think about the future. The Guardians seemed to have replaced Hal Jordan because Hal had repeatedly disobeyed orders, but the truth was not that simple. According to the Yellow Lamp and the Green Lamp, the Green Lantern Corps had been on the move recently, which meant that they had begun to plot against the entire universe. There was only one enemy that could make the emotionless little blue man so anxious, and that was the imminent arrival of the Dark Knight. They were eliminating unstable factors. Hal Jordan was a troublemaker, and there was no doubt that they would take him down first. Thea had also thought about stopping this disaster, but unfortunately, this was the will of the universe. If there was life, there would be death. Everything was caused by the laws of nature. She could not stop it, nor could she stop it. The consciousness of this universe was much stronger than that of Earth too. Once she stood on the opposite side of it, Thea felt that some ghost stranger would jump out at her in the next second. In fact, there was a good way to deal with the Dark Knight once and for all, and that was to cremate the entire universe. If the bodies were burned, you would not be able to stand up even if you wanted to. But she also knew that this was unrealistic. According to incomplete statistics, 90% of the planets in the universe carried out burials. The few planets that Thea had been to all carried out burials. Nearly 1 million bodies of Green Lanterns were buried in the cemetery of the main planet of Aurora. Many of these people were the greatest Green Lanterns when they were alive. If Thea proposed to burn the bodies of these people, she might as well lead the Yellow and Green Lamps to war with the Green Lamp. Not to mention the distant alien planets, she could not even deal with Earth. Except for a few countries in Asia that carried out cremation, most countries carried out burials. The resistance to this matter was so great that the power of the president could not be pushed through at all. She had to re-enter a monarchical society. If she forced it, she estimated that she would have to kill hundreds of millions of people. Furthermore, the deceased relatives of superheroes were all buried. Even Diana's Paradise Island was buried. Did they burn all their corpses? It was possible that she had killed more people than she did on the Night of Darkness. Did she have nothing better to do? Soon, she arrived at a secret base of the Heaven's Eye Society. Diana had talked to her before she left. Clown Girl didn't seem to have done anything wrong. It was inhumane for Amanda to put a bomb in her neck and risk her life for her. Moreover, the ugly girl had performed meritorious deeds during Darkseid's invasion. Was it possible to release her on that basis? Thea also felt that the clown girl was slowly getting better. She was a little crazy, but not to the point where she was unscrupulous. She decided to fish her out and observe her for a while. She went straight to the Heavenly Eye Society and told Amanda that she wanted to take the ugly girl away. "Can you tell me your reasons?" Black Panther didn't look too good. She felt a little embarrassed when Lin Fan came to ask for her in such a blatant way. "What reason do you want? Government approval? A special pardon? A thank you letter signed by the Justice League? You can think of anything. I can find it for you," Thea said, amused. She was very confident in facing the Heavenly Eye Society now. No one in the system could beat her. Amanda sighed. "You can take the ugly girl away, but, no buts," Thea answered calmly. She was in a different position. She had no right to talk about conditions. The two quickly completed the procedures. "I can go now?" Clown Girl, who was practicing gymnastics in her cell, was a little surprised when the bomb was taken out. Amanda didn't look too good. She slammed the door and left. Clown Girl looked around in confusion. After a while, she realized something. "Oh, little Thea, are you here to save me?" Thea ignored her. "Jim, guard. Then I'll be leaving." "Ha ha." The guard looked at her blankly. "Lawton, I'm leaving." Death Archer's eyes almost popped out when he saw Clown Girl waving at him from outside the cell. "Can I stay by your side forever? Until death? Why did you run away when those words were still ringing in my ears? Don't send me off. I'm leaving. I'll come back to see you guys later." Clown Girl was still yelling at the prison door. Her voice was full of energy. It was obvious that she was very happy. Thea quickly pulled this troublemaker into the car. If she continued to taunt, half of the people in the prison would come out and beat her up. Thea didn't dare to throw this crazy person into society. She locked her up in the administrative committee and let Bao Lang watch her for a few days to see what would happen. After dealing with Clown Girl, she returned to the vanishing point in less than 10 minutes. Ballistics and extreme speed, the two extreme speed. She had to check on their results. This is a magician from the 64th century. Extreme speed pulled over a middle-aged man with white hair. His eyes were unfocused and his words were frivolous. Thea opened the records of Arcane Core's eye and looked at it carefully. The number of crimes this magician committed was shocking. In his eyes, all humans were like NPCs in a game. It was not uncommon for him to kill people. Not only did he commit crimes in the parallel universe, but he also did many bad things in Thea's original universe. The Heaven's Eye Society even planned several capture operations, but unfortunately, he used future technology to evade them. "Don't look at me like that. Future person, do you think you're better than others? As far as I know, in the 30th century, the Superhero Legion has already issued an iron law forbidding time travel. Your era is 3,000 years later than theirs. How dare you ignore the human agreement? You're unforgivable." Magician's eyes were full of contempt. Even if he became a prisoner, he still didn't think he would be in trouble. In his opinion, even if these people from the 21st century could travel through time, their knowledge was no different from prehistoric humans. Thea reached out and tapped his forehead. A bright light flashed and her finger was blown away by an explosion. Both of them were surprised. "Nano body structure? You're not even human now, right?" Thea looked like she saw a new toy. This guy had modified his body to a terrifying level. Magician was also shocked. Even with the power suppression handcuffs, he still didn't think anyone could kill him. In this primitive era, any weapon should stop in front of the crystallization of future technology. This was also the reason why he dared to do whatever he wanted. But just now, Thea's casual move made his heart palpitate. "Don't look at me. I don't have any psychological burden if I kill you." Thea smiled and pointed again. This time, she used her divine power. The nano body couldn't resist the soul extraction. Magician's face was filled with confusion. He fell to the ground with a dull gaze. He was already dead. "Mr. Speed, bring the other prisoner." Thea kept the soul fragment. The reason why she showed her skills was to kill this scum and also to intimidate Speed. The second prisoner was brought up. It was a red-haired boy who was less than 1.5 meters tall. He was terrified as he was dragged out by Speed. "Yo, this is a famous person, Bart Allen of the Speed family." Sia flipped through the records. Just as she had expected, this child did not commit any crimes at all. It was more or less like he was caught to vent his anger at the speed of light. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.